Chapter 1036. When Xiao Qian's group arrived at the treasure mountain, more than 1,000 cultivators had already gathered in the surrounding sea regions. There were even more who entered the treasure mountain. Xiao Qian looked up at the treasure mountain. Just the part that floated above the water was more than 10 kilometers long. However, this was just the tip of the iceberg of the treasure mountain. Below the water, there was an even vaster main body, extending all the way to the legendary heart of the ocean. The bottom was even more mysterious and alluring. However, even with Emperor Wu's cultivation, he did not dare to casually dive in. As for the deepest part, to the heart of the ocean, even sovereign martial emperors had to be careful. Most of the martial artists would only search and explore the mountains that were floating above the water. Even though they knew that no one visited the depths of the ocean, that the remnant was still intact, and that the harvest would be even greater, no one would take the risk. This was because all those who took the risk died. The crowd surged, and lights of various colors flickered. The manager said, "There are really a lot of people. If we go to search for spirit herbs and try our luck outside, we will not be able to obtain any great benefits." This went without saying. Aside from the 6 great loose cultivators of the Cloud Sea domain who arrived first, there were too many people who arrived later. All the good things had already been snatched away. For example, if one person monopolized a herb field, the harvest would be startlingly vast. However, with tens of thousands of people fighting for it, even if it was split evenly among more than 1,000 people, its value would be greatly reduced. Mu Qinghan smiled and said, "Hence, I have never been interested in treasure mountains. If I had not obtained the news of the 10,000 treasure pavilion by coincidence, I would not have come to join in the excitement." Coincidence? Xiao Qian smiled silently in his heart. If Mu Qinghan knew that the so-called coincidence was just something arranged by Mo Chun, how would he feel? However, there was no harm in knowing. The two of them had different goals, so there would not be any conflict. At most, they would feel somewhat unhappy. Mu Qinghan turned around and said to Xiao Qian, "Brother One, our opponents this time are only those people from the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion. They invited 2 people from the Zodiac Hall. If I guess correctly, they should be the elite disciples of the Sun Palace, the top palace of the Zodiac Hall. At that time, we will have to rely on you. If we appear too weak, the other party will definitely not mind chasing us out." Xiao Qian said, "What if the opponent's performance is too weak?" Mu Qinghan shook his head and said, "The possibility is not high. If there were only one Sun Palace disciple, I might be able to make some moves. But since 2 of them have come, I only hope that they understand the big picture. Otherwise, it won't be good for anyone if the fish dies and the net splits." It was clear that Mu Qinghan still doubted Xiao Qian's strength. After all, Xiao Qian was only an inferior grade martial sage. As for the Zodiac Hall's outstanding talents, they were all geniuses and had the ability to fight above their cultivation level. Even at the Grandmaster level, they could defeat existences at the Grandmaster level. In Mu Qinghan's opinion, as the Saber Sovereign Wu Xiaoyan's personal disciple, Xiao Qian had a 60% chance of victory if he was not injured when fighting against the 2 Sun Palace elites. But now that he was injured and his strength had yet to fully recover, his chances of winning should only be 50%. It was more than enough to deter the other party and prevent the other party from getting any ideas. However, suppressing the other party would be a little difficult. In reality, Mu Qinghan's guess was not wrong. However, Xiao Qian was not Wenziren. Mu Qinghan had an even greater background than Wenziren. Xiao Qian smiled and did not argue. "Let's go." Mu Qinghan led the way, passing through the heavy fog. Then, he gently drifted down and landed on the treasure mountain. The group moved away from the crowd and took a remote path. The mountain path was riddled with potholes. Several spirit herbs had been uprooted, not leaving anything behind. All sorts of fiery sect palaces and remnants could be seen on both sides of the path. As one walked, one could clearly feel the weight of history that time brought. Clearly, Mu Qinghan wanted to avoid the crowd, not going to the popular herb fields or the relatively intact palaces. However, it seemed like things did not go as he wished. Halfway down the path, the 4 ran into a silver-haired youth radiating fiendish chi. The silver-haired youth had an extremely relaxed expression. It looked like he had obtained a bountiful harvest before everyone else. At this moment, he was casually strolling around, trying to see if his luck was good enough to find some spirit herbs and hidden passages. Oh, isn't this the young master of the Nine Cauldron Merchant Association? The silver-haired youth's eyes immediately lit up when he saw Mu Qinghan. Tai Jinquang swept his gaze over the four of them. When he saw that there were no strong enemies, he revealed a malicious expression. Mu Qinghan frowned slightly. Unexpectedly, this silver-haired youth was one of the 6 great loose cultivators of the Cloud Sea Domain, the Silver Shark Swordsman. Go further away. I will pretend that I did not see you, Mu Qinghan said coldly. He couldn't be polite to these loose cultivators. The more polite he was, the more it would seem that he didn't have any trump cards up his sleeves. Instead, it would cause the other party to be even more fearless. The Silver Shark Swordsman swept his gaze over the four and felt confident. Mu Qinghan and the manager were Grandmaster-level martial sages. The Veiled Girl was only a medial-grade martial sage. The remaining youth was even more ordinary, only an inferior-grade martial sage. The 2 Grandmasters were a little troublesome, but if he could get rid of the 2 small fries and no one bothered him, he would be able to deal with the 2 of them within 100 moves silently and without attracting any trouble. As the silver-haired youth thought to himself, he smiled and said, "Well said. Since young Master Mu has spoken, I will just leave." Mu Qinghan heaved a sigh of relief. This kind of loose cultivator did not fear anything. He even dared to speak to the city lord's residence's people. If not for the fact that Mu Qinghan had more people on his side, the other party would not have been able to deal with him so quickly. Huqi. However, in the time it took for a spark to fly, a strong wind blew and clouds churned. The silver-haired youth turned around and attacked at lightning speed. He flew over and turned into a huge silver shark. Then he opened his mouth wide and charged at Xiao Chun, who had the lowest cultivation. The silver-haired youth was incredibly fast. It was hard to imagine that he would suddenly attack with a killing move before his smile faded. Xiao Chen's lips curled up. Such a move might be effective against cultivators who had just left their sections. However, it was useless against him. From the moment this person appeared, he had never let down his guard. Do you think I'm a pushover that you can bully as you please? Kuan Peng fist, hating the heavens for being too low. A huge shadow suddenly appeared, covering the sky. Xiao Chan radiated a lofty aspiration and the aura of a ruler, hating the heavens for being too low. The instant the Kuan Peng spread its wings, Xiao Chun soared into the air. He spread his arms and kicked up a strong wind in the surroundings, causing the clouds to shatter. Not only did Xiao Chun not retreat, but he even took a step forward. Despite moving later, he suppressed the other party with his aura and punched. Bang! When the fist and palm met, cracks appeared on the ground. Rubble flew everywhere, and the entire mountain shook. The silver-haired youth could not stand steadily and retreated 10 steps. Blood leaked out of the corner of his lips. This was the result of him underestimating his opponent. Xiao Qin spun around 3 times and landed firmly on the ground. The instant his feet touched the ground, the shaking mountain stopped shaking. I was just joking. Little friend, you are pretty strong. Your vital qi is astonishing. I will take my leave first. The silver-haired youth had suffered a loss. He had not expected Xiao Chun to be a hidden expert, so he moved back, wanting to leave. However, the silver-haired youth's thoughts were as quick as lightning. He was cunning and full of schemes. After suffering a significant loss, he immediately calmed down and stopped attacking. Instead, he started plotting something else. Xiao Chun watched coldly as this person left, not saying anything. Young Master One, I did not expect you to know such a martial technique. This fist technique, which is close to a profound technique, actually managed to force back the Silver Shark Swordsman. Seeing Xiao Chun force back the silver-haired youth with one punch, Mu Qinghan felt both startled and happy. The silver-haired youth was one of the 6 great loose cultivators of the Cloud Sea Domain. He was infamous. Now, Xiao Chun forced him back with one punch. This time, Mu Qinghan had unintentionally picked up a treasure. Xiao Qian's gaze remained calm. He shook his head and said, "This person only underestimated his opponent. He was not severely injured." "Huh, no matter what, I am even more confident in this trip to the 10,000 Treasure Pavilion," Mu Qinghan said with a smile, his face filled with joy. The group continued forward. Xiao Chun kept an eye out and extended out his spiritual sense. Indeed, Xiao Chun saw that the silver-haired youth had not left yet. A messaging talisman flew out of his hand, like he was summoning someone. Xiao Chun withdrew his spiritual sense. It looked like the 9 Cauldron Merchant Association and the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion's plan of splitting the 10,000 Treasure Pavilion equally was impossible. After thinking for a while, Xiao Chun told Mu Qinghan everything he saw. After all, Xiao Chun was indebted to the other party. If they continued according to the original plan and waited for the Silver Shark Swordsman to gather people, not only would they not obtain the treasures, but they might even lose their lives. When Mu Qinghan heard that, his expression changed greatly. Then, he asked to confirm, "Brother Wen, are you sure you did not see it?" Knowing that the other party would definitely suspect him, Xiao Chun said calmly, "I guarantee that what I saw was real. There is no benefit in lying to you. You know that. Damn it, that Silver Shark Swordsman must be gathering the other 5 great loose cultivators. He thinks that my 9 Cauldron Merchant Association still has experts that have not arrived and that he's not a match for them alone," Mu Qinghan said hatefully. His expression was extremely depressed. Xiao Chun could only blame his bad luck for running into the Silver Shark Swordsman, one of the 6 great loose cultivators of the Cloud Sea domain. If he could kill the others to silence them, the news would not leak. Then, he would not have to go through so much trouble. What should we do? If we continue, we will definitely expose the location of the 10,000 Treasure Pavilion. At that time, the 6 great loose cultivators will benefit for nothing. Mu Qinghan could not think of a solution. Anxiety appeared on his face. Emo-chan said softly, "How about this? Let's spread the news of the 10,000 Treasure Pavilion's location and let all the cultivators in the Treasure Mountain rush in. Young Master Mu, you can call back the other team. With a great Grandmaster-level martial sage holding down the fort, we should be able to gain something." Amid the chaos, the 6 great loose cultivators' deterrence will be much weaker. Furthermore, these loose cultivators are all unruly, unwilling to submit to anyone else. When they see the treasures that interest them, they will definitely attack each other and become scattered. You will have plenty of opportunities. How can this do? My clan's young master put in a lot of effort to obtain the entrance to the 10,000 Treasure Pavilion. How can we get it to others for no reason? The moment the manager said that, he immediately rejected Mo Chen's suggestion. Chapter 1037. Mo Chen smiled faintly and said, "It is just a suggestion. Whether you agree or not naturally depends on young Master Mu's opinion." Mu Qinghan thought for a while. Then, determination flashed in his eyes. "Let's do that, then. Manager, go and call back Elder Lu's team. After that, spread the news of the 10,000 Treasure Pavilion's entrance. No matter what, we cannot let those bastards, loose cultivators, benefit." Indeed, Mu Qinghan was right. If they followed the original plan, the ones who would benefit the most would be the 5 great loose cultivators. However, the premise of all this was that the 4 did not know that the 8 blue-robed emperors in Shattered Cloud City were already stealthily heading for the Treasure Mountain. They had already stealthily set off for the Treasure Mountain. In a situation that no one expected, a bona fide quasi-emperor was interested in a mere treasure mountain. Furthermore, there were 8 of them traveling together. After 15 minutes, a piece of exciting news spread throughout the Treasure Mountain. Do you know? The location of the 10,000 Treasure Pavilion was discovered. It is at the Sage Cliff. The 9 Cauldron Merchant Association leaked the news. Is it true? It is. I heard that the 6 great loose cultivators all headed there. It is definitely true. Who cares if it is true or not? We will know once we go and take a look. The Sage Cliff is not far away. If it is true, we will have made a huge profit. The news of the 10,000 Treasure Pavilion's entrance at the Sage Cliff spread like wildfire. One spread to 10, 10 to 100. Soon, all the cultivators in the Treasure Mountain were excited. Cultivators of various cultivations all rushed to the Sage Cliff. The Sage Cliff was a cliff on the vast Treasure Mountain. It had carvings of the fiery sect masters and divine grade refiners. This place was barren, and there were no palaces. Cultivators rarely came here, as there were no spirit herbs or secret treasures. However, no one expected that the entrance to the 10,000 Treasure Pavilion was behind the Sage Cliff that no one expected. When the countless cultivators arrived, they saw that a dark hole had already appeared in the cliff. They all rushed in excitedly. Not far away, the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion's Chun Wenjun's group showed extremely sullen expressions. They had not expected the 9 Calder Merchant Association's people to expose the 10,000 Treasure Pavilion's entrance. Senior Brother Liu, Senior Brother Feng, sorry. I did not expect such a result, Chun Wenjun said to the 2 Sun Palace elite disciples in a low voice. The 2 Sun Palace elite disciples were called Liu Xiaoyu and Feng Ziying. They were among the top 10 of the Sun Palace's younger generation. Liu Xiaoyu wore the golden battle robes of the Sun Palace, embroidered with the majestic scene of a golden crow sun. He waved his hand and smiled. It's fine. As long as the location of the 10,000 Treasure Pavilion is real, it's fine. As for the trash in front, I'll kill as many as I can. Chun Wenjun said carefully, but I heard that the 6 great itinerant cultivators are also preparing to enter. When the time comes, Feng, Chun Wenjun said carefully. Chun Wenjun and said, Chun Wenjun and Wenjun, I heard that the 6 great loose cultivators preparing to enter. Chun Wenjun smiled and said, What are you saying? Both of you are peerless geniuses and have the ability to fight above your cultivation level. Why would I look down on you? Liu Xiaoyu was in a good mood. He waved his hand and said, Never mind. Junior Brother Feng, Junior Brother Chun, is an outer sect disciple of the Cyclic Astral Palace. Finding the entrance to the 10,000 Treasure Pavilion is already a great merit. If we can obtain a few true treasures, we will definitely shine in the 4 Seas Hero Gathering in half a year. When Feng Ziying heard about the 4 Seas Hero Gathering, he revealed an expression of hope. He said heroically, Let's go. The Cloud Sea domain is just a small place. If the blue-robed emperor does not come out, who can stop us? On the other side, the instigator of this matter, the Silver Shark Swordsman, was caught off guard when he saw this dramatic turn of events. The old fish devil looked at the people rushing around and smiled. Silver Shark Swordsman, your unique information does not seem to be unique at all. Now, everyone in the entire Treasure Mountain knows about it. The Iron Sword Kwong said sullenly, I'll go first. After saying that, he took a big step forward and turned into a blazing meteor, flying towards the Sage Cliff. Madame Hua laughed tenderly. This concubine will go first as well. Silver Shark Swordsman, it looks like I have to thank you for this. Xinyuan Zhantian did not say anything. He only glanced at the Silver Shark Swordsman before withdrawing his aura and silently heading for the Sage Cliff. The old fish devil laughed loudly and said, This old man will be leaving as well. Silver Shark Swordsman, it looks like it was not you this time, but the people from the 9 Calder Merchant Association. They will definitely not expose the location of the 10,000 Treasure Pavilion. This is a good deed. Soon, only Gao Yongyu and the silver-haired youth remained. Gao Yongyu smiled gently and said, Silver Shark Swordsman, how about we travel together? The Silver Shark Swordsman's lips twitched. Then he smiled and said, I'd better go alone. What a joke. This Gao Yongyu's cultivation was originally only a step away from the blue-robed emperors. Earlier, when he charged into the Treasure Mountain, half of the 10,000-year-old spirit herbs ended up in his hands. If Gao Yongyu consumed a 10,000-year-old spirit herb that could increase his law energy, he would be able to break through to the blue-robed emperor in one go. No matter who he traveled with, the Silver Shark Swordsman would not travel with this Gao Yongyu. At that time, Gao Yongyu might swallow him up until not even his bones remained. Gao Yongyu looked at the Sage Cliff in the distance, and his expression changed. He muttered, Regular king-grade secret treasures are not very useful to me. In the 10,000 treasure pavilion, only the profound cultivation techniques are suitable for me. As for the Book of Heavenly Works and the legendary divine weapon, the Emperor shooting sun bow, they are too vague. Right, in that case, I will target the profound martial techniques. I will kill whoever tries to compete with me. Gao Yangyu's tone was cold, but it contained an unparalleled tyranny and confidence. It was like all the profound martial techniques in the Sage Cliff were already his. Then he raised his leg and casually took a step forward, disappearing from where he was. No one noticed that the instant Gao Yangyu raised his foot, the winds and clouds in the surroundings changed, creating a myriad of phenomena. When he raised his hand and stomped his foot, he stirred up the winds and clouds. Young Master One, we will part ways here for now. We will meet again in the future if we are fated. Mu Qinghan gathered another team. Now, there was an additional great Grandmaster-level martial sage, a Grandmaster-level martial sage, and several superior-grade martial sages. Their strength soared significantly. With the change of plans, Xiao Qin's value decreased significantly. Naturally, Mu Qinghan was no longer willing to travel with Xiao Qin. It was not worth it to continue offending the 8 blue-robed emperors. Between the gains and losses, Mu Qinghan made his decision. Xiao Qin smiled faintly and performed a cupped fist salute. We will meet again if we are fated. Given Xiao Qin's meticulous thoughts, he naturally guessed what Mu Qinghan was thinking. However, this was fine as well. This suited Xiao Qin. He already knew about the entrance to the 10,000 treasure pavilion. If not for the other party's kindness, he would not have traveled with him. Mo Chan said softly, "This young Master Mu is really decisive." Once he changed his plans, he instantly stirred up this mess even more. When he felt that he was at a disadvantage, he immediately abandoned his original partners without hesitation. Xiao Qin said indifferently, "He did not do anything wrong. After all, he is a businessman and needs to consider his gains and losses. However, there are some things that cannot be measured by the value of business alone. Between gains and losses, sometimes suffering a loss is the best thing to gain." Mo Chun entered deep thought, mulling over Xiao Qin's words. After a while, she said, "Come, let's go in as well." Following Mo Chin's footsteps, the two entered the Sage Cliff together. The cave in the Sage Cliff was a passageway. Illumination stones were embedded in the ceiling, giving off a weak light. The entire passageway was dark. When Xiao Qin and Mo Chun entered, most of the cultivators had already entered impatiently. Only a sparse number of cultivators walked forward in groups of 2 or 3 excitedly. Mo Chin's attire had already changed slightly, and Xiao Qin's attire was extremely ordinary. At this moment, no one would pay special attention to the two. Soon, the two reached the end of the passageway. A pair of bronze doors appeared before them. Dragons and phoenixes were carved on the doors, chasing one another. This showed the Tao of Yin and Yang. It seemed to contain some of the fiery sex refinement methods. Xiao Qin revealed an expression of reminiscence. This door was very familiar. He was once in the Sky Dome realm, in the underground forest, in the fiery sect branch ruins. All sorts of scenes appeared in Xiao Qin's mind like it was yesterday, vivid in his mind. Those outstanding talents were no longer around. Only he was still walking alone. Sky Dome Realm, Heavenly Saber Pavilion, Qingyan Peak. Is elder sister Ryue doing well? Xiao Qin once thought that he was a cold-blooded person. He could leave his thoughts in the depths of his heart, in the corner of his heart. If he did not think about it, he would temporarily forget about it. However, when he saw the real thing and saw it, several things appeared uncontrollably in his mind. Trashy master, don't overthink. Seeing Xiao Qin reminiscing about the past, appearing confused, Ao Jiao, who was in the Immortal Spirit Ring, immediately reminded him. Ao Jiao has always been around. Xiao Qin smiled to himself. Little Ao Jiao, thank you. Then, he turned his head and glanced at Mo Chun beside him. He wondered if he could see this girl again after this matter. Mo Chun was very observant. She noticed that something was wrong with Xiao Qin. She asked out of concern, "What's wrong with you?" Did you go to the Firely sect branch in the past and remember the past? Xiao Chun was startled. Was my expression that obvious? Huh, I guessed right. The Firely sect branches are spread all over the world. This place is said to be the main hall. I wonder if that is true or not. There is such a thing? Xiao Chun asked. Is there news of the Book of Heavenly Works? Don't worry, it is definitely true. My Mo clan's ancestors were once the masters of many small sea domains between the Southern Sea and the Northern Sea. The Cloud Sea domain is just one of them. The news came from my ancestors, so it can't be wrong, Mo Chun said confidently. Suddenly, Xiaoqin recalled that he once obtained a mysterious sword hilt from a mountain-flamed giant outside the Firely sect remnant in the Sky Dome realm. Back then, the situation was urgent. Although he obtained it, he had not gone to take a look. Now that he was back at the Firely sect, he remembered this. After some effort, he found the sword hilt in the somewhat chaotic universe ring. Xiao Chun exerted some force, and the sword hilt shattered, revealing a golden, phoenix-shaped jade pendant that looked like a burning flame. However, when Xiao Chun placed it on his palm, it felt cold, looking extremely strange. Hey, this is the key to the secret path. Why do you have one as well? Mo Chun immediately recognized this item. At the same time, she took out a phoenix-shaped jade pendant. Although the jade pendants were all heavenly phoenixes, their movements were very different. Chapter 1038. Xiao Chun asked out of curiosity, "What is this?" Mo Chun explained, "This jade pendant of mine was passed down from my ancestors. Whether we can obtain the Book of Heavenly Works or not depends on it. This piece of yours should be the key to some secret room. However, if we cannot find the corresponding secret room, this key is useless." Upon hearing this, Xiao Chen's interest diminished significantly. He put away the jade pendant and said, "Let's go. We have to help you obtain the Book of Heavenly Works quickly. If we delay, something might happen." Mo Chen nodded, and the unlatched doors opened once more. Then, the two formally entered the 10,000 Treasure Pavilion. The instant the doors opened, an unpleasant smell of blood wafted out. The shelves and the boxes on the stone pillars were all opened. The ground was littered with recently dead corpses. The blood had not dried yet. Aside from dying at the hands of cultivators, most of them died to the restrictions of the treasures. Every box and treasure here had restrictions and ancient mechanisms that could not be casually touched. The first floor of the 10,000 Treasure Pavilion was already incomparably complicated. The pathways extended in all directions. If one walked around carelessly, they might not even know the way to the second floor. Mo Chun took out a rough map and glanced at it. Then, she advanced unhurriedly. Along the way, she did not even glance at the stone rooms or the treasures on the shelves. Soon, they arrived at the passageway to the second floor. There was a thin barrier there, blocking several cultivators from entering. Bang! 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 Two inferior-grade martial sages attacked the barrier. However, the barrier did not budge at all. Instead, it reflected their attacks. The two vomited blood. Unexpectedly, the last strike had shaken them to death. The other cultivators who were preparing to test the barrier paled in fright. They no longer dared to make a move. They all hoped that when an expert broke the barrier, they could take the opportunity to pass through. Xiao Chun felt startled in his heart. The rebound force of this barrier might not be half of what he sent back. It might be double or even triple. Of course, there was definitely a limit. It could not go on indefinitely. As long as one passed that threshold, it could be easily broken. There were many cultivators here. Xiao Chun did not want to attract attention. He hugged Mo Chun, not allowing her to struggle. Then, he pushed off the ground and soared into the air, turning into a saber. Buzz! A resplendent saber light came from Xiao Chen's body, shining like the sun. Everyone's vision blurred as they heard the hum of a saber ring out beside their ears. When they opened their eyes again, the crack in the barrier was slowly mending. Damn, where did this expert come from? In the time it took for a spark to fly, someone instantly broke through the barrier. The waiting cultivators all cried out in alarm. There were also quite a few people who were secretly cursing. Since they were going to go It would be good to bring two people along. Get lost. Just at this moment, a rough shout resounded, and two strong auras surged over. The bodies of the cultivators were tossed into the walls like sandbags. They were badly mutilated and died on the spot. Everyone turned around and saw two rays of light as resplendent as the sun, illuminating the hall as if it was daytime. It's Zodiac Hall, a disciple of Sun Palace. Run! The remaining people were greatly startled. Zodiac Hall was a huge place in the entire heavenly starry ocean. Furthermore, these were the elite Sun Palace disciples. How could they dare to remain here? They're indeed trash. Before the two of us made a move, the Sun Astral might smash them to death. Lu Xiaoyu and Feng Xing said indifferently as they put away the solar astral banners above their heads and looked at the mangled corpses on the ground. The mouths of Chun Wenjun and the great Grandmaster-level martial sage of the Nine Cauldron Merchant Association twitched. They could not bear to watch. Most of the cultivators on the first floor were only martial monarchs. How could they block the solar astral banners that the two had refined with tens of thousands of kilograms of divine materials? Lu Xiaoyu played with a mysterious black metal in his hand, a faint smile on his face. Feng Xing smiled and said, "Senior brother, your luck is pretty good. You managed to obtain an ancient iron heart on the first floor. Even if you melt it down, you can exchange it for 100 tons of divine materials." Lu Xiaoyu said indifferently, "This iron heart is the core component of the Firely Sex combat puppets. If we can comprehend its secrets and forge combat puppets that can learn martial techniques, they will be worth far more than 100 tons of divine materials." A dim look flashed in Lu Xiaoyu's eyes as he said, "Unfortunately, even the rare divine-grade refiners cannot comprehend its secrets. Without the Book of Heavenly Works, everything is for naught." Chun Wenjun whispered, "Senior brothers, that saber light earlier seemed to be from Wenziren. The person he brought with him was Mo Chun." Feng Xing exclaimed softly, "What's wrong? Do you have a grudge with him?" "This Wenziren humiliated a subordinate clan of mine. That Mo Chun also grasps the unique refining techniques of the Mo clan. I have always wanted to annex this clan." Lu Xiaoyu's eyes lit up. After some thought, he said, "Mo Chun, this girl is quite famous. Unfortunately, she is disfigured." Feng Xing said casually, "Let's give chase and take a look. After all, this place is very big. We won't be able to cover it in a short time. We can just find something to do." When Chun Wenjun heard this, he rejoiced. He smiled and said, "Many thanks, senior brothers. I'll go and tear open the barrier." Feng Xing's lips curled up as he said, "It is just a small barrier. There's no need to go over personally. Watch me." With a flip of his hand, the solar astral banner appeared in his palm. The banner fluttered, and a beam of flame shot out, burning the entire barrier. Disdain flashed in the eyes of the two as they flew over. Chun Wenjun recovered his wits and quickly gave chase. He was horrified at the strength of the Sun Palace disciples. The 10,000 treasure pavilion had a total of 5 floors. With each floor, the might of the barrier would double. Even with Xiao Chen's strength, he found it somewhat strenuous to break the barrier in the end. At the start, Chun Wenjun's group easily broke the barrier. In the end, Lu Xiaoyu and Feng Xing had to work together to break it. All the peak experts of this treasure hunt were gathered on the 5th floor of the 10,000 treasure pavilion. Xiao Chun and Feng Xing walked very carefully. Mo Chun chose the path with great care. However, this place restricted the use of spiritual sense. Xiao Chun did not notice that the people of the Sun Palace were following him from a distance. On the 5th floor, every stone room contained a high-ranked king-grade secret treasure, a divine weapon from the ancient era, all sorts of natural treasures, or even ancient divine materials. Of course, it was not that easy to obtain them. The stone rooms had strong restrictions and traps. If one was not careful, they might fail to find the treasure and end up losing their lives. All sorts of miserable cries rang out on the 5th floor of the 10,000 treasure pavilion. From the moment Xiao Chun and Feng Xing arrived, they had not stopped. Lu Xiaoyu and Feng Xing, who were following behind them, showed grave expressions from their initial carelessness. Even a fool would know that something was wrong with Xiao Chun and Mo Chun, who were following them, not even glancing at the various stone rooms and secret treasures. Excitement flashed in Feng Zing's eyes as he muttered, "Interesting. We were just looking for something to do. Unexpectedly, we caught a big fish." Chun Wenjun smiled gently and said, 5,000 years ago, the Mo clan was the master of this sea region. The treasure they're searching for is definitely not simple. It is either the legendary Emperor Yi Shooting Sun Bao or the even more mysterious Book of Heavenly Works. The Emperor Yi Shooting Sun Bao is one of the top 5 divine weapons on the divine weapon ranking. Is it really in the headquarters of the Firely sect? Shock flashed in Lu Xiaoyu's eyes. Lu Xiaoyu did not find it strange that the Book of Heavenly Works was in the Firely sect. After all, this divine canon was the foundation of the Firely sect. However, no one had heard of the Emperor Yi Shooting Sun Bao being in this treasure mountain. That was a divine weapon that had been missing for tens of thousands of years. If not for the Emperor Yi Shooting Sun Bao's name being on the divine weapon ranking, many people would have thought that this divine weapon was damaged and disappeared. Chun Wenjun smiled somewhat embarrassedly and said, "It is just a rumor. In the past, when the treasure mountain appeared, someone once saw it shoot out an arrow and kill a golden crow descendant that flew by. That golden crow descendant was the black dragon eagle, a spirit beast comparable to the blue-robed emperor. However, it was killed by this arrow light. Hence, this rumor appeared in the Cloud Sea domain. As for whether it is true or not, there is no way to verify it. Feng Zing did not believe it. The rumor is somewhat false. However, this Mo Chun has been very cautious along the way. She has already made 3 detours. Even if it is not the Book of Heavenly Works or the Emperor Yi Shooting Sun Bao, it is definitely a valuable treasure." Lu Xiaoyu nodded, and a fervent look flashed in his eyes. "We really did not come for nothing this time. We 2 senior brothers will definitely shine brightly in the Four Seas Hero Gathering. At that time, even the outstanding talents of the Sun Palace will be inferior to us." At the same time, in the 5th floor of the 10,000 Treasure Pavilion, some people rejoiced, some people cried out miserably, and some people felt depressed after obtaining treasure. The Silver Shark King youth carefully broke a restriction in a stone room and obtained a king-grade battle armor that contained 89 formations. He was overjoyed. "With this secret treasure, my defense will double." The silver-haired youth pondered for a moment before saying, "The restrictions in this place are a little strange. Even I cannot break through some of them, and some of them strengthen according to my strength. I should spend some time refining this secret treasure first." Xinyuan Zhantian vomited a mouthful of blood and looked at the pile of shattered combat puppets on the ground with lingering fear. He said sullenly, "This combat puppet is very powerful. It clearly only has the strength of a Grandmaster-level martial sage, but it even knows a profound martial technique. I nearly died here." Xinyuan Zhantian glanced at the treasure chest on the stone platform in front. Then, he took a step back and smashed the treasure chest with a palm strike from a distance. A poisonous fog quickly spread out. Xinyuan Zhantian had been prepared for this long ago. He sent out a palm wind and quickly scattered the poisonous fog, not staining it at all. When the poisonous fog scattered, a yellowed secret manual was revealed. Xinyuan Zhantian put on a pair of gloves and waved his hand to pull the secret manual over. There was a bloody word "forbidden" on the cover. Xinyuan Zhantian carefully flipped through it and revealed an expression of joy. Although it is not a profound cultivation technique or martial technique, this forbidden art can instantly increase my combat prowess tenfold. It would be great if it did not reduce my lifespan. This forbidden art was called the Wheel of Life and Death. Once it was executed, it would reduce a cultivator's lifespan by 1 year. Chapter 1039. Even after becoming the blue-robed emperor and having 1,000 years of lifespan, Xiao Chun did not dare to use it casually. Only when he became Emperor Wu and reached 2,000 years of lifespan would he dare to do as he pleased. Compared to Xiao Chen's deities descending, there was a huge disadvantage. However, the advantage was clear. Xiao Qian's tenfold combat prowess could only erupt for an instant. The wheel of life and death could last for several breaths. The strongest of the 6 great loose cultivators, Gao Yangyu, felt extremely upset at this moment. He had barged into 3 stone rooms with martial techniques in a row. In the end, all of them were heaven-ranked martial techniques. There was not a single profound martial technique or cultivation technique. Right now, I only know one profound martial technique. I have to find another one. Otherwise, even one of the 8 city lords would not be confident of victory. Gao Yangyu's eyes flickered with great ambition. Based on what he said, it seemed like he could fight with the blue-robed Emperor's city lord now and have a 50-50 chance of victory. Mu Qinghan's group was rather lucky. On the 5th floor, they had already broken 3 restrictions and obtained 3 king grade secret treasures. However, the rather miserable thing was that only Mu Qinghan, the manager, and that great grandmaster level martial sage remained. The value of the 3 king grade secret treasures was definitely not worth the deaths of so many people. Mu Qinghan showed a sullen expression as he clenched his teeth and prepared to continue breaking restrictions. Otherwise, not only would he not gain anything from this trip to the treasure mountain, but he would also suffer a great loss. Given his character, he would not agree to this. After making 8 detours, Mo Chun and Xiao Chun did not fear trouble. They went back a few more times to avoid being followed. This made Chun Wenjun's group very careful. If not for Lu Xiaoyou's sharp eyes and quick hands, they would have been exposed a few times. Young Master One, is there a need to go to so much trouble? Mo Chun asked, finding it strange. Along the way, Xiao Chun had been overly cautious. Since the 2nd floor, I have felt that something is wrong. Xiao Chun looked around and said, forget it. Maybe I'm overthinking things. I have turned back a few times, but I have not seen them. Come, let's go to the 6th floor of the 10,000 treasure pavilion. If he could still use his divine sense, he wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. Unfortunately, the walls of the 10,000 treasure pavilion contained a special array and restriction. Not only could it absorb the energy of the aftermath of the battle, but could also restrain the existence of divine sense and mental power. The 2 of them weaved through the corridors, making many turns before stopping in front of a dead end. Xiao Chun went forward and knocked on it. The wall was solid, and there was no hidden compartment behind it. Mo Chun moved her fingers, and a red light flickered on her fingertips. Then, wondrous formations appeared on both sides of her. This was a strange, secret technique derived from the supreme magic skill of the Immortal epic, the Great Divination Technique. Of course, by the time it had been passed down, it had already weakened quite a bit and could no longer be called a divine ability. Xiao Qin thought to himself, this Mo Chun is really talented. She has all kinds of talents. Refining medicinal pills, refining treasures, brewing wine, designing wine cups, and now she even dabbled in the nearly lost secret techniques. Based on the many layers of talisman formations around her, it was clear that she had very high attainments in these secret techniques. She did not just have a superficial understanding of them. As Mo Chun made her divination, clumps of white light started moving around the walls on both sides. After a while, the clumps of light stopped. Then, Mo Chun sent out a palm wind and struck that brick. Huang dang! The wall at the end of the corridor suddenly parted, and a long passageway appeared before the 2. Mo Chun took the lead and walked in. So that was the case. The wall in front was indeed solid. However, she needed to make some divination before she could find the secret compartment. Without this divination technique, no matter how powerful her magic skill was, she would not be able to find the secret compartment. When the 2 reached the end of the passageway, a staircase appeared in front. If they followed the staircase, they would reach the mysterious 6th floor. When the 2 arrived at the upper floor, a 1-kilometer-long stone room appeared before their eyes. Simple, life-size combat puppets with a strong metallic texture floated on the ground. Xiao Chun counted the number of these combat puppets. There were about 100 of them. They stood in 10 groups in the stone room. Each group had a jade strip giving off a bright light floating above them. These jade strips, are all profound martial techniques or cultivation techniques. Every time you use a jade strip, you will have to face the attacks of 10 combat puppets. Emo-chan explained softly. The combat puppets will adjust their combat prowess according to the challenger's cultivation. They can adjust their combat prowess up to Emperor Wu's level. Xiao-chan was startled. To think that the ancient Firely sect was so strong. They could even refine combat puppets of Emperor Wu's level. The fact that the combat puppets could adjust their combat prowess should be to test their disciples. They would not let the genius disciples easily obtain profound martial techniques or cultivation techniques. They would also not let the disciples with weaker talent fail to obtain profound martial techniques because the difficulty was too high. They did their best to create a fair environment. Xiao Chun felt excited. Right now, he was only an inferior grade martial sage. However, his combat prowess was more than enough to defeat a great grandmaster level martial sage. That was to say, even if he used all 10 jade strips, he would only have to face 100 combat puppets with a combat prowess of an inferior grade martial sage. Joy appeared on Xiao Chen's face. He thought to himself, I wonder if this counts as cheating? Probably not. After all, a special existence like me can only appear because of many coincidences. Since ancient times, I am probably the only one. Young Master One, I will go and take out the Book of Heavenly Works first. Given your strength, it should not be a problem for you to subdue 1 or 2 jade strips. Emo-chan took out her fiery phoenix pendant and headed for a stone platform in the center of the stone room. Xiao Chen nodded. Then, he opened his hand and collected all 10 jade strips containing profound martial techniques. Whoosh! The previously lifeless, statue-like combat puppets suddenly began to move in unison. The dust on their bodies exploded in an instant, creating deafening booms. Emo-chun, who was at the side, was stunned. Unexpectedly, Xiao-chun took the risk and collected all 10 jade strips containing profound martial techniques. However, what shocked Emo-chun even more was yet to come. These combat puppets, the strongest of which was as strong as Emperor Wu, exploded with one punch from Xiao Chun. The 5 heaven dragons behind Xiao Chun surged up and down, roaring ferociously in unison. Xiao Chen's punch contained 25,000 tons of force. When combined with the dragon claw fist, which burned his vital qi, he was like the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves. Occasionally, Xiao Chun executed the Kuan Peng fist, sweeping through a large area. A strong wind blew, the heaven dragon roared, and the great rock spread its wings, hating the sky for being too low. Emo-chan gaped slightly, her eyes filled with incredulity. She even forgot what she was doing as she watched. When Xiao Chan finished off the 100 combat puppets, he waved his hand and sucked all the steel hearts into his universe ring. Only then did Emo-chan recover her wits. Emo-chun smiled bitterly. She really could not compare herself to others. There was a groove on the surface of the stone pillar. It happened to fit the fiery phoenix pendant in her hand. Without much thought, Emo-chun inserted the jade pendant. In that instant, a fierce flame burned on the stone pillar. An ancient book carved from bamboo soared up from the flame. The words Book of Heavenly Works were carved on the frontmost bamboo leaf, looking very eye-catching in the flame. Emo-chun looked at Xiao Chun joyfully. She said somewhat excitedly, Young Master One, it really is the Book of Heavenly Works. I obtained it. Xiao Chun smiled faintly, feeling happy for Emo-chun. He understood Emo-chun's current feelings. He said softly, Congratulations, Miss Emo. You got what you wanted. Emo-chun smiled warmly and said, Many thanks, Young Master One. Along the way, there were many combat puppets and barriers at the gates. If not for you, Mo-chan would not have obtained the Book of Heavenly Works so easily. While Emo-chan felt happy, she also felt somewhat disappointed. Now that she had gotten what she wanted, there was no need for Xiao Chun to remain by her side. Although Xiao Chun did not know the other party's identity, he was not someone she could make stay in the insignificant Cloud Sea domain. They had met by chance at the seaside. He had suddenly appeared and killed people in a rage in the city lord's residence. When he saw her face, he was willing to extend his cold hand to give her one last bit of warmth. However, in the end, he did not belong to the Cloud Sea domain. He did not belong to this insignificant sky. Xiao Chan felt somewhat sorrowful. In the end, he had to leave. There were not many people in this world that could be considered friends. Girls that could make him look at them in a new light were even rarer. Without a doubt, zither, go, calligraphy, painting, the mystical arts, and the medical arts. Emo-chan was proficient in all of them. However, she had a different kind of stubbornness. She was such a girl. The atmosphere was somewhat strange. The two did not say anything. Mo-chan smiled bitterly and said, "After obtaining the Book of Heavenly Works, I will be able to become the blue-robed emperor in less than 10 years. At that time, I will be your bodyguard and protect you for 10 years. Blue-robed emperor. As long as Xiaochen was willing, he could absorb another 10 peak spirit veins and return his cultivation to its peak. Together with Neptune's crown, he would be able to defeat the blue-robed emperor without Emo-chen's protection. However, at this moment, he would just treat it as a white lie. Xiaochen smiled and said, "Good. I'll wait for you. I'll wait for you to become the blue-robed emperor. I'll wait for you to knock on the emperor's door and personally see you remove the veil on your face." Dong, dong, dong. Urgent footsteps rang out. Chun Wenjun led the Sun Palace's Lu Xiaoyu and Feng Xing, as well as the great Grandmaster-level martial sage of his clan, to the 6th floor of the 10,000 Treasure Pavilion. The Book of Heavenly Works. When the group saw the eye-catching words and the blazing flame, they immediately became excited. Lu Xiaoyu smiled and said, "Good. It was not in vain for us to hide here and there and follow Miss Emo-chan for so long. Many thanks, Miss Emo-chan. Without you, even if Emperor Wu came, he would not have been able to find the Book of Heavenly Works. You have worked hard. Now scram immediately. I'm in a good mood and can spare one of you." Xiao Chan frowned slightly. Then he smiled and said, "So, you are disciples of the Zodiac Hall Sun Palace. No wonder I did not discover you on the way back." Feng Xing smiled coldly and said, "It's good that you know our origins. Quickly scram. Don't think that after killing 8 pieces of trash, you are some powerful demonic genius, not knowing how high the heavens are." The smile on Xiao Chen's face did not fade. "Is that so? I'll return those words to the two of you. Don't think that just because you're an elite disciple of the Sun Palace, the heavens are only so high and the earth is only so thick. You are seeking death." The killing intent on Feng Xing's body immediately burst forth. Chapter 1040. A baleful wind swept over. Combined with Xiao Chen's strong aura of kingship, it felt like an enraged marquis roaring in the cold wind amid 5,000 kilometers of dry bones. The Sun Star was the most tyrannical and kingly star among the millions of stars. The Sun Palace disciples were like the Sun Star, filled with the aura of kingship, unparalleled and tyrannical. For the sake of nurturing the tyranny of the Sun Palace disciples and cultivating the Sun Scripture, the Zodiac Hall gave every disciple great authority, establishing their authority and reputation. It affected the mental state of these disciples invisibly, causing their king's Tao to be everlasting, like the eternal sun, their arrogance soaring into the heavens. When fighting with ordinary cultivators, this king's chi used the might of the solar star. Sometimes, with a ferocious roar, it could frighten the opponent, making them tremble in fear. However, the other party had found the wrong person. Showing off the tyrannical aura of kingship before the Emperor True Dragon, the Blue Dragon King, was no different from showing off before Guan Yu. It was just a naive joke. Xiao Chun took 2 steps to the left without leaving a trace. Then, he stretched out his hand and shielded Emo-chan behind him. Then he glanced back. It seemed like a pair of invisible eyes suddenly opened in the world. The other party's tyrannical and horrifying aura silently vanished without a trace when Xiao Chen glanced at it. Feng Xing and Lu Xiaoyu exchanged glances and saw a trace of surprise in each other's eyes. How could a surging aura vanish without a trace just because of a glance? Chen Wenjun observed their expressions and smiled. Senior brothers, there is no need to use a sledgehammer to crack a nut. Let our first elder make a move. Lu Xiaoyu thought to himself. Although this great Grandmaster-level martial sage of the Treasure Heaven Pavilion was not worth mentioning to him, and he could defeat the other party within 100 moves, Xiao Qin's earlier glance felt strange. However, Xiao Qin's earlier glance gave him a strange feeling. It would be good for a great Grandmaster-level martial sage to test him out. Lu Xiaoyu slowly nodded in agreement. Sorry for the offense. Without needing to say anything more, the old man behind Chun, Wenjun, narrowed his eyes and leaped forward. He unleashed his aura and formed hand seals with both hands. The undulating mountain ranges merged into one, like a huge dragon raising its head. 50 kilometers of mountains and rivers, the aura of a true dragon raising its head, all appeared in this seal. That's right. Even I wouldn't dare to be careless against this dragon head seal. Lu Xiaoyu and Feng Xing secretly nodded. Xiao Chun faintly smiled. He spread his arms, displaying the stance of a Kuan Peng spreading its wings. With a tap of his feet, his body soared into the sky like a Kuan Peng, traversing 8,000 miles in a single breath. I hate the heavens for being too low, not allowing me to travel freely. That was not enough. A divine light descended. Myriad heaven divine fist, deities descending, executed tenfold combat prowess. Kacha! A crisp sound rang out, like the sound of the sky shattering. The moment the divine light entered his body, Xiao Chun punched out. Before the Azure Dragon King, a mere little dragon like you dares to raise your head? Kneel! He shouted angrily. Cracking sounds echoed out as the mountains formed by the old man's palm strike shattered one after another. Eventually, all of the mountains were destroyed. When all the mountains shattered, the old man vomited blood, along with his shattered internal organs. Plop! The old man's lifeless corpse was forced to kneel by Xiao Qin's might, no longer able to raise his head. This scene startled Lu Xiaoyu and Feng Xing. With a flip of their palms, the solar astral banner slowly rose up, giving off a dazzling golden light. All the light in the world gathered over, looking like a blazing sun rising from the two's palms. As the sun rose, it displayed its grand ambitions. The overwhelming might of the kingship Tao was like a gushing waterfall about to pour down for 500 kilometers, ready to erupt. How can the light of a grain of rice dare to compete with the bright moon? Xiao Qin narrowed his eyes, and a bright moon rose up behind him. The moon was like fire, filled with thousands of kilograms of hot-bloodedness. The fire would not extinguish, not extinguishing even after 1,000 years. Back then, when Xiao Chun drank the 1,000-year flame that Mo Chun brewed, he had comprehended something. However, he had not been able to figure it out. Today, when he saw these two, the blazing sun between his palms immediately merged. All his comprehensions and gains were contained in this 1 month. This move was called 1,000-year flame. Under the suppression of the bright moon, the rising solar astral banners between the two's palms were forced back. Eventually, they returned to their palms, no longer giving off any light. The fierce flame continued to burn. The wine of the 1,000-year flame was an intoxicating shade of red, bright and glistening. However, the flame was made of hot-bloodedness. In that instant of lofty aspirations, that unbridled lofty sentiments and unruliness. As the bright moon hung high in the sky, Xiao Chun laughed loudly and stretched out his palm. All the hot-bloodedness and lofty sentiments of the Blue Dragon King, all the unruliness and unruliness, all the loneliness and solitude. The instant Xiao Chun stretched out his palm, he displayed it vividly. The joys and sorrows of partings, laughter, anger, and curses, all the lofty aspirations were in this one palm strike. Boom! The two insufferably arrogant elite disciples of the Sun Palace were instantly crushed to dust. Chun Wenjun, who was pushed to the side, vomited a mouthful of blood and crashed into the wall, fainting. Flawless Bright Moon was as red as wine and as blazing as fire. This was the 1,000-year flame. This palm strike contained lofty sentiments and hot-bloodedness, blasting out a lofty aspiration. Under the bright moon, Imo-chan was somewhat engrossed in that frozen figure. It was like she saw Xiao Qin's sorrow, loneliness, lofty sentiments, and hot-bloodedness. There were also many things that she was familiar with. The thousand-year flame, the intoxicating red, the hot-bloodedness. This palm strike used the comprehensions from the wine cups to infuse all of her emotions into it. Imo-chan had never seen or heard of such a palm technique before, finding it incredible. When the bright moon vanished, Xiao Chun slowly landed on the ground. Imo-chan stepped forward and asked softly, "Is this palm strike the thousand-year flame?" Xiao Chun turned around and smiled faintly. "Indeed, you're the only one who can understand this palm strike. However, it is not perfected yet. There are still many areas that need to be improved and refined. Its might should be stronger." Imo-chan shook her head and said with great certainty, "I feel that this palm strike does not have to be the strongest. Why does a martial technique have to focus solely on offensive power? This palm strike of yours is carefree and unrestrained. The joys and sorrows of partings, joy, anger, sorrow, joy, lofty sentiments, hot-bloodedness, and lofty aspiration are all in this palm strike. If you focus only on its might and offensive power, that would be too unfortunate. Perhaps in the future, you will no longer be able to display the momentum and sentiments you had today." Xiao Chun entered deep thought. Imo-chan's words confused him for a moment, causing him to sink into deep thought. Of course, this is just my opinion as a woman, a small opinion of someone standing at the side. Perhaps it is wrong. Don't mind it," Imo-chan said with a faint smile. Xiao Chun smiled warmly and said, "How can that be? You are right. Perhaps the thousand-year flame is really as you said. Let's not talk about this anymore. Quickly go and get the Book of Heavenly Works, lest something bad happens." Imo-chan nodded. Then, she stretched out her hand into the blazing fire and grabbed the Book of Heavenly Works, which was strung together with bamboo leaves. When the fire extinguished, Imo-chan looked down, and a strange expression appeared on her face. "Hey, my jade pendant is missing. There is such a thing?" Xiao Chun went forward to take a look out of curiosity. Indeed, that was the case. Imo-chan's Heavenly Phoenix jade pendant had disappeared from the groove in the middle of the stone pillar carved with all sorts of formation lines. This jade pendant should be some kind of energy that can activate the formation lines. When the formation lines are activated, the energy is exhausted, and the jade pendant disappears. Ao Jiao analyzed rationally from the Immortal Spirit Ring. Xiao Chun thought for a while and concluded that this should be the case. He raised his head and said, "Let's go. This has nothing to do with us." Imo-chen's gaze turned grave, but she did not move. "Wait a moment." The shape of the groove changed. "Take out your jade pendant and compare it." Xiao Chun took out the fiery Heavenly Phoenix jade pendant and compared it. He was pleasantly surprised to discover that it matched perfectly, not at all different. Imo-chan said excitedly, "Quickly put it in then." "My Heavenly Phoenix jade pendant obtained the Book of Heavenly Works. Logically speaking, your jade pendant should be able to obtain something no worse than mine." Xiao Chun could not help feeling excited. Unexpectedly, the sword hilt that the Sky Dome Realm's Firely sect had kept for almost 10 years actually found a home in the Firely sect's headquarters. "Wait a moment. Don't act rashly," Ao Jiao reminded from the Immortal Spirit Ring. Ao Jiao's horizons were broader than Imo-chen's. She felt that there was something wrong with the formation lines on the stone pillar. They seemed to be connected to an extremely destructive ceiling formation. You decide for yourself. If there is a harvest, there will definitely be a harvest. However, the commotion you cause will be rather big. Xiao Chun thought for a while. Naturally, Ao Jiao's words were most likely correct. However, if he gave up on this fortuitous encounter, it would be too much of a pity. The fortuitous encounter was right before him. If he did not grasp it, he would regret it 100 years later. To gamble or not to gamble? I'll gamble. Xiao Chun steeled his heart and waved his hand. Imo-chan, stand behind me. Imo-chan vaguely felt that the formation lines on the stone pillar's surface might be connected to something very destructive. So, she obediently stood behind Xiao Chun. After calming his emotions, Xiao Chun carefully and solemnly inserted the heavenly phoenix jade pendant into the stone pillar. The instant the heavenly phoenix jade pendant was inserted, the formation lines on the stone pillar's surface started to light up. A liquid that looked like lava flowed on the pillar. Finally, it burst into flames and burned fiercely. However, it was somewhat surprising. Nothing came out of the flames. This disappointed the nervous and expectant Xiao Chun and Mo Chun. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, nothing changed. As the flames burned, no treasure appeared. It was not like earlier, where the Book of Heavenly Works was summoned out after being placed in. Xiao Chun smiled bitterly and said, "It looks like I was overthinking. Perhaps someone already took the treasure away, or it has been too long, so the formation lines lost their effect." These were the only two possibilities. However, it did not matter. This was something unexpected in the first place. If there was, it would be a pleasant surprise. If there was none, there was no need to be too disappointed. Ka! 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 Just at this moment, cracks appeared on the surface of the stone pillar. As the cracks spread, the entire 10,000 treasure pavilion started shaking violently. The shaking intensified. Rocks fell from the ceiling of every floor. Some unlucky cultivators were injured by the rocks. Cracks appeared on the walls everywhere, and they were accompanied by the incessant shaking. All the signs pointed to one fact: the 10,000 treasure pavilion was about to collapse. Quickly run! Quickly run! The 10,000 treasure pavilion is going to collapse. Immediately, panicked footsteps resounded. No matter which floor the cultivators were on, they all started running for their lives. Chapter 1041. However, that was not the extent of the collapse. The cultivators who came out of the 10,000 treasure pavilion were shocked to discover that the treasure mountain that floated out of the water started to shake violently. Cracks spread everywhere. The seawater in the surroundings churned intensely. Waves surged up, rising and falling with horrifying waves. Even the sky had turned dark at some point in time. Heavy clouds covered the sky, and a line connected it to the sky. What's going on? What's going on? The treasure mountain seems like it is going to explode. Why is the treasure mountain reacting so strangely? The treasure mountain has appeared several times before, but such a thing never happened. A valuable treasure must be appearing soon. Otherwise, it would not cause such a huge commotion. Tens of thousands of cultivators fled the treasure mountain in panic, making wild guesses all over the place. These people stood in the distance, feeling nervous as they watched the treasure mountain on the verge of exploding. There were also some bold and skilled people who remained quietly in the 10,000 treasure pavilion. Even if the treasure mountain exploded, great Grandmaster-level martial sages would be able to protect themselves from harm. None of the 6 great loose cultivators on the 5th floor had left. This was especially so for Gao Yangyu. Unexpectedly, he even had an excited expression on his face. I wonder which unlucky fellow activated the restriction. Based on the situation, a valuable treasure must be appearing. Ha! I lucked out. A sinister look flashed in Gao Yangyu's eyes. His law energy flowed continuously, forming a firm protective barrier to protect himself. A careful look would reveal that his law energy had already broken away from heavenly sage laws and turned into the higher-level heavenly laws. It contained the power of an Empyrean, faintly merging with heaven and earth, possessing a mysterious Tao. However, this profound Tao did not seem very stable, appearing and disappearing at times. It was unknown whether it was done on purpose or for some other reason. Inside the stone room, Xiao Chun and Mo Chun showed extremely grave expressions. They had not expected the commotion to be so great. The stone pillar in front of Xiao Chun was slowly peeling off. What was sealed beneath, it would be revealed very soon. Boom! When the stone pillar completely collapsed, the treasure mountain that had risen to the surface of the water suddenly exploded, causing a huge explosion that shook the heavens and shook the earth. Countless towering waves rose one after another, forming a magnificent spectacle. The seawater flowed backward, Primal chaos shock waves radiated out. Several cultivators who were standing too close bore the brunt of the shock waves and were crushed into powder. A beam of light soared into the skies. A powerful pressure radiated out in all directions. Caught off guard, tens of thousands of martial artists fell into the water, their laws and veritable essence in chaos. He looked up carefully and saw a simple and imposing divine bow floating quietly in the treasure light. This was the king of the bow, able to comprehend the profound and transform into a deity, able to shoot down the sun in the sky, able to pierce through the bright moon in the sea. Emperor Shooting Sun Bow. Someone exclaimed in a low voice. The legend was true. The Emperor Shooting Sun Bow was really in this treasure mountain. The Emperor Shooting Sun Bow was a divine weapon ranked within the top 5 of the divine weapon ranking. It was comparable to a primordial emperor treasure, the peak of spirit weapons. After being lost for more than 10,000 years, it reappeared in the world today. All along, the rumors of the Emperor Shooting Sun Bow on the treasure mountain had never stopped. At this moment, they finally verified the reliability of the rumors. The divine weapon Shooting Sun Bow was indeed in the treasure mountain. The way it appeared was extremely tyrannical. The entire peak of the treasure mountain that floated above the water was blasted away. The surrounding cultivators felt excited, their blood surging. However, no one dared to move. None of them flew towards the treasure light soaring into the sky. If it were a king-grade secret treasure, there would definitely be a huge crowd of people rushing over. However, a treasure that far surpassed their strength actually calmed them down. Everyone knew that if they were not strong enough, even if they managed to snatch such a treasure, they would not be able to leave this sea alive. Quick, look! There are still people around the treasure light. When the crowd squinted, they saw 6 people in the vicinity of the treasure light, some near and some far away. Under the illumination of the treasure light, the appearances of these 6 people could be seen clearly even from several kilometers away. These 6 people were the 6 great loose cultivators that remained in the 10,000 treasure pavilion. Damn, it's the 6 great loose cultivators. It's over this time. They will definitely snatch away the Emperor Shooting Sun Bow. Those city lords have already lost confidence in the treasure mountain. Without the blue-robed emperor, no one can stop these 6 great loose cultivators. How unfortunate to think that the divine bow is going to end up in the hands of a few evil loose cultivators. No matter who it was, the 6 great loose cultivators were infamous in the Cloud Sea domain. When they killed people, they were unreasonable and temperamental. Seeing that the divine bow was about to end up in the hands of these loose cultivators, the loose cultivators naturally felt indignant. Although they were angry and upset, no one dared to take a step forward. I'll go first. This little lady will be taking this bow. Madame Hua laughed. Her graceful figure looked very charming under the light. She smiled gently and blocked the might of the treasure light as she flew towards the pillar of light soaring into the sky. Go away. Someone was even faster than Madame Hua. An unparalleled king's aura surged over as the heavenly war halberd in her hand chopped down. It was like the wrath of the king caused blood to splatter for 500 kilometers around. With a gentle chop, everyone submitted. It carried a boundless might as it forced Madame Hua back. On the other side, the old fish devil, the silver shark swordsman, and the iron sword maniac fought a chaotic battle. Their killing chi was boundless. No one was willing to submit to the other. Only Gao Yangyu stood in the distance with a cold smile on his face. He stood upright with his hands behind his back as he looked at the divine bow floating in the air. He did not move a single step as if he did not intend to make a move. The 5 great loose cultivators fought fiercely. This was truly shocking. It was unexpected, but it was reasonable. However, no one dared to make a move. This was because Gao Yangyu's gaze swept through the surroundings, intentionally or otherwise. He was like a towering king, deterring people from taking even half a step forward. Old friends, stop fighting. I want the bow. In the future, when I unify the Cloud Sea domain, I will definitely repay everyone for their kind intentions. After thinking for a while, Gao Yangyu, who had not made a move all this while, suddenly made a move. A huge suction came from his palm, pulling the sun-shooting bow over to him with a buzz. I just knew that you would not be able to keep your composure. Wishful thinking. It would be strange if this old lady agreed. If you unify the Cloud Sea domain, how can we survive? Stop dreaming, Gao Yangyu. Immediately, the 5 people fighting stopped at the same time. Then, they each sent out a suction, pulling the sun-shooting bow over to them. This bow was an ownerless item. Furthermore, it had been asleep for 10,000 years. Its item spirit was already dead, and most of its magic abilities were gone. Despite its strong might, it was being pulled over by a few minor characters who were not even Emperor Wu. This was a kind of tragedy for a divine weapon. Even for a divine weapon that was not on the divine weapon ranking, the competitors were at least at the level of the blue-robed emperor. Gao Yangyu frowned slightly. Just as his patience reached its limit, a figure suddenly appeared under the sea. Suddenly, a figure appeared. Before everyone's eyes, the figure grasped the Emperor Shooting Sun bow tightly in his hand. The treasure light that filled the sky immediately vanished, and the dark clouds that connected the sky moved in all directions, slowly disappearing. The blazing sun hung high in the sky, and sunlight shone down, sweeping away the dark space. Naturally, the one holding the Emperor Shooting Sun bow was the one closest to the divine bow. After the treasure mountain exploded, Xiao Chun had been hiding in the water without moving. When the sunlight shone on the face of the person holding the bow, several people immediately exclaimed. This name had recently appeared like a meteor in the Cloud Sea domain, attracting attention. In Shattered Cloud City, when Xiren had killed 8 young city lords in a fit of rage, 8 blue-robed emperors were searching for him everywhere. Unexpectedly, he had appeared in the treasure mountain. Furthermore, he had forcefully made a move before the eyes of 6 great loose cultivators, forcefully grasping the Emperor Shooting Sun bow. Xiao Chun held the bow in his hand and fiddled with it like there was no one around. He praised, "Not bad. Even if the item spirit no longer exists and most of its divine might is lost, this bow should still rank as the top bow in the world. Right? I could give it to first senior sister." Shui Lingling had helped Xiao Chun countless times, from the moment he arrived in the Kunlun realm until now. However, Xiao Chun did not have anything he could take out to repay this favor. Today, he coincidentally obtained this divine bow. It seemed like the will of heaven. Suddenly, Xiao Chun looked around and happened to meet Xinyuan Zhantian's gaze. The two of them felt this was strange. They had not expected to meet each other here. Unexpectedly, they ran into an old friend from the Sky Dome realm in this insignificant Cloud Sea domain. Xinyuan Zhantian smiled helplessly as he sent a voice projection. "It looks like I have no more chances. I will not make a move. Be careful of this Gao Yangyu." After sending the voice projection, Xinyuan Zhantian silently withdrew while everyone focused their attention on Xiao Chun. "Brad, it's you again." The Silver Shark swordsman recognized Xiao Chun with one glance. He drew his sword, and killing chi spread out from his body. He did not hold back at all as he pushed off the ground and charged at Xiao Chun. He leaped into the air, stepping on the Silver Shark. Layers of waves, one after another, surged behind him. When the cold light point arrived, the Silver Shark's body trembled. When the cold light arrived, there were already 999 layers of waves. With each layer, the might of this sword increased slightly. By the time the 99 layers were completed, the might of this sword had already increased by more than 5-fold. This was the Silver Shark swordsman's killing move, waves surging. When its aura was at its peak, the Silver Shark swordsman thrust his sword out. His entire movement was very smooth, perfect, drawing the sword, flying horizontally, storing up power, stacking waves, and thrusting out. All these were completed in the time it took for a spark to fly. Those with weaker eyesight would not be able to see so many things. They could only see that when the Silver Shark swordsman thrust his sword, 99 layers of waves appeared. Good timing. Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes and put away the sun-shooting bow. Then he stretched out his hand. 100 true dragons roared ferociously in Xiao Qian's dantian. Those were the materialized heavenly sage laws. His law energy had reached a whole new level. In terms of might, they were comparable to heavenly laws. This was the first time Xiao Qian executed flawless bright moon with his materialized heavenly sage laws. It was extremely resplendent. His entire index finger glowed like jade. It was simply the most perfect finger in the world. There were no adjectives that could describe the beauty of those fingers. Dang! Xiao Qian's finger pressed against the other party's sword tip. The two extremely strong forces clashed in the air, giving off a melodious and ear-splitting sound. The entire space trembled and flowed like water, forming an intense spatial storm. Chapter 1042. A horrifying energy surged over. However, Xiao Qian's body was like a mountain, not moving at all. With one finger, he forced back the incoming enemy. The cultivators in the distance sighed. In their opinion, the Silver Shark Swordsman's sword strike was already terrifyingly strong. However, Xiao Qian calmly stretched out a finger and forced back the other party. The Silver Shark Swordsman took 10 steps back in the air. He was somewhat shocked to discover that his law energy had increased fivefold. Compared to the other party, his law energy was still slightly inferior. This one Xiron's law energy should be so pure. In reality, aside from Xiao Qian's materialized law energy, the assistance of his great perfection saber soul was also the reason for such an effect. The Silver Shark Swordsman, who had just reached small perfection, was not strong enough before Xiao Qian. Otherwise, with Xiao Qian's current cultivation, he would not be able to injure the other party. To the cultivators of the Cloud Sea domain, these loose cultivators were extremely strong, far stronger than regular great grandmaster level martial swordsmen. However, along the way, Xiao Qian had killed many great grandmaster level martial swordsmen and seen all sorts of great grandmaster level martial swordsmen. He had even fought with the blue-robed emperor. Aside from the old man who had yet to make a move, which made Xiao Qian feel some fear, these people before him were only SOSO. This scene not only shocked the Silver Shark Swordsman, but also the other 3 loose cultivators. Heavy shock flashed in their eyes. Originally, they had been ferociously preparing to work together. However, now, actually hesitated for a moment. Xiao Qian smiled faintly. They still dared to hesitate before a huge battle. No wonder they could only flaunt their might in this insignificant place, gaining some ferocious reputation. If you're not going to attack, I will. Xiao Qian's figure flashed. Facing these 4 loose cultivators, the Old Fish Devil, the Iron Sword Maniac, Madame Flower, and the Silver Shark Swordsman. Instead of retreating, Xiao Qian turned into a saber light and charged at the weakest Madame Flower. Madame Flower revealed a startled expression. In a fluster, she opened her mouth and spat out a red poisonous fog. Xiao Qian smiled faintly and inhaled, directly swallowing this poisonous fog. After refining 100 drops of dragon marrow, his physical body had already reached the peak of rank 4 sage body. This level of corrosive poison mist could not cause any damage to his body at all. Madame Hua, who was in slight disbelief, was slightly taken aback. Her poisonous mist that could turn a person into red bones did not have any effect at all. While she was distracted, Xiao Qian's fist did not show any mercy. It landed on her body, causing her to vomit a mouthful of blood. She was severely injured. Let's go together. Ironsword Maniac was the first to react. The broadsword in his hand slashed out. The powerful explosive power behind it made this attack seem very frightening. Xiao Qian frowned slightly and did not clash head-on. His eyes lit up as he instantly found the weakness of this move. Then, he turned around and materialized his flawless saber, Dao, to its limits. Crisp saber images filled the air as he turned around and swung his saber. The sword body trembled, instantly dispelling the berserk power. The Old Fish Devil charged over with his fishing rod. The Silver Shark Swordsman gritted his teeth and charged over again. Madame Hua's figure was ethereal as she flew around, continuously attacking Xiao Qian. The 4 worked together to surround and attack Xiao Qian. However, They did not feel relaxed at all. Saber hums filled the air, ringing endlessly like the most beautiful zither music in the world. Xiao Chun, who was surrounded, used his body as a saber, dealing with every move, firmly suppressing the four. Xiao Chun could not be bothered to continue fighting. His gaze turned cold, and a bright moon soared into the sky behind him. The moon was like fire, burning endlessly. The joys and sorrows of partings, lofty aspirations, hot-bloodedness, all are in my palm. 1,000-year flame, inextinguishable, only I am undefeatable. Xiao Chun, who held the upper hand, suddenly unleashed his aura. A bright moon leaped out from behind him and hung high in the air, looking like a blazing flame. The bright moon in the sky was like a river of time. Many different Xiao Chins leaped out of the river. Some were sad, some were unruly, some were as calm as autumn water. Xiao Chun sent out the same palm strike as Xiao Chun under the moon. The four great loose cultivators felt an unparalleled force from the palm strike. Their internal organs instantly ruptured. They vomited a mouthful of blood and flew back 5 kilometers. Then, they fell into the water and fainted. What kind of palm strike was this? It spoke of joy and sorrow, of partings and reunions, of lofty aspirations, of hot-bloodedness. It was as satisfying as strong wine, as fiery as inextinguishable hot-bloodedness. With one palm strike, the four great loose cultivators of the cloud sea domain flew back 1 kilometer, their fates unknown. Who in a younger generation could have such elegance? Who exactly was Wenziren? With such startling strength, he should have been famous in the entire heavenly starry ocean long ago. Why had no one heard of this name before? This was a mysterious person, an unresolvable question. All the cultivators who saw this scene wondered who exactly he was. Some of the more knowledgeable cultivators had heard of the flawless saber, Dao, before. They guessed in their hearts, but that person was already a great grandmaster-level martial sage long ago. He could not be compared to Wenziren at all. Xianyuan Zhantian, who had already retreated far away, felt depressed. He revealed a bitter smile on his face. Some people really could not be used as opponents. Otherwise, it would be a shadow in one's heart for life. Of the 6 great loose cultivators, Xianyuan Zhantian had retreated, and the other 4 had fainted. Now, only Gao Yangyu, who had not made a move yet, remained. After seeing Xiao Chen's strong strength, if nothing unexpected happened, this divine bow would end up in Xiao Chen's hands. You are so strong at such a young age. You are ridiculously strong. If not for this treasure mountain and my fortuitous encounter, you might have had a chance today. Contrary to everyone's expectations, Gao Yangyu did not show any worry when facing the strong Xiao Chun. He seemed very confident and in control. What's wrong? You don't believe me? Gao Yangyu smiled faintly and no longer suppressed his strength. He took a gentle step forward in the air. With his step, the winds and clouds changed color. The winds blew, and the clouds moved in all directions. The winds and clouds swallowed up a great scene. When Gao Yangyu raised his foot, he stirred up the winds and clouds. This was the mark of the blue-robed emperor. Immediately, a horrifying aura spread out from Gao Yangyu's body, making it hard for others to breathe. Blue-robed emperor. Gao Yangyu broke through to the blue-robed emperor realm. Wenziren is finished this time. Unexpectedly, Gao Yangyu found a 10,000-year-old spirit herb in the treasure mountain and broke through the bottleneck of great grandmaster-level martial sage, becoming a major character that can stir up the winds and clouds. No wonder he is so confident. He actually reached the blue-robed emperor realm. Even if he enters and exits the blue-robed emperor realm, he will be able to suppress Wenziren with such strength. The difference in cultivation is too great. If Wenziren were a great grandmaster-level martial sage, he might have a chance. Now, he has no chance at all. The situation suddenly changed. Gao Yangyu, who had not made a move yet, actually reached the blue-robed emperor realm. From now on, there would be another major character in the Cloud Sea domain. If Gao Yangyu obtained the divine bow, he might even be able to unify the Cloud Sea domain in a few years. How unfortunate! This fellow took advantage of this opening. The 8 city lords would not have expected the Emperor, shooting sun Bao, to really appear in the treasure mountain. On the surface of the sea, Imo Chun, who had been very confident in Xiao Chun, could not help but reveal a worried expression. Why can't I be stronger? If I were stronger, I would be able to help him. Xiao Chun now understood why Xinyuan Zhantian warned him to be careful of this person. Gao Yangyu was actually someone who had just entered the blue-robed emperor realm and could stir up the winds and clouds. Gao Yangyu could tell that Xiao Chen's origins were not simple. He said calmly, "You do not belong to the Cloud Sea domain. Hand over the Emperor, shooting sun Bao, and I will not make things difficult for you." Xiao Chun was someone who had just entered the blue-robed emperor, yet he dared to speak such nonsense before him. This was simply too presumptuous. After this matter, Xiao Chen's identity would be completely exposed. He would no longer be able to remain in the Cloud Sea domain. Xiao Chen glanced at Imo Chun in the distance and sighed to himself, "We will meet again if we are fated." When Xiao Chun turned his head back, his expression turned cold. He said in a cold voice, "I really want to know how you are going to make things difficult for me. Why do you have to make things difficult for me? Just based on your half-baked blue-robed emperor cultivation?" Xiao Chen shouted and waved his hand. The many-peaked spirit veins in his universe ring turned into roaming dragons and flew out. Crystalline spiritual rain fell from the sky. Splash, splash, splash. As the rainwater hit the water, it tinkled endlessly. "These are peak spirit veins," someone exclaimed softly, feeling it strange. How could one Xiren have so many peak spirit veins? Xiao Chun took out a total of 10 peak spirit veins. Then he opened his mouth and swallowed them all. The spiritual rain vanished, and a blazing sun-like light came from Xiao Chen's body. It was as dazzling and piercing as the sun. Light and heat came from his body, directly vaporizing the seawater below. Mist rose into the air, making it hard for people to see what was happening inside. They could only feel a terrifying energy fluctuation coming from within. Gao Yangyu's face sank, and his eyelids twitched for some reason. He had a bad feeling. Gao Yangyu felt anxious and wanted to make a move. However, he could not see anything in this mist, so he did not dare to act rashly. This situation did not last for long. With the continuous and undulating dragon roars, the mist dissipated with a loud bang. 10,000 dragons danced behind Xiao Chun, looking ferocious. The ferocious dragon roars caused the seawater to churn. Huge waves rose up and down endlessly. Among the dragons, Xiao Chen's attire changed. He now wore the azure Neptune headscarf on his forehead and the clear wind robes, which equaled a peak king-grade secret treasure, infused with the Blue Dragon King's insignia. At this moment, the Blue Dragon King returned to its peak, rising from the ashes and advancing further. 10,000 dragons soared. What kind of grand scene was this? The cultivators of the Cloud Sea domain gaped. They had never seen this scene before in their lives. Their minds paused for a moment. Shock that came from the bottom of their hearts reverberated in their minds for a long time. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Dragon-shaped laws entered Xiao Chen's body. With each law that entered, Xiao Chun could feel his strength increase significantly. When all 10,000 laws entered his body, Xiao Chun experienced an unprecedented strength. With a wave of his hand, he could split mountains. The law energy surged endlessly. He could execute several killing moves that he could only execute once or twice in the past, as he pleased without having to worry about exhausting his law energy. A hazy scene appeared in Xiao Chen's mind. He saw a ravine that connected heaven and earth. After crossing the other shore, he could ascend to the great Tao and knock on the Emperor's door. The chasm between heaven and earth, the chasm between great Grandmaster-level martial sages and Emperor Wu that Elder Qin spoke of, he finally saw it with his own eyes. It turned out that the scene on the other shore was so glorious. Now that Xiao Chun had returned to his peak, the blue-robed emperor was within reach. He could start constructing the bridge to heaven at any time. Chapter 1043. Shock flashed in Gao Yangyu's eyes. When he saw Xiao Qin's current attire, he paled somewhat as he exclaimed, "You are not Wenziren. You are the Blue Dragon King Xiao Qin that the Thunder King personally appointed." At this moment, the mystery that troubled everyone, who exactly Wenziren was finally revealed. Long ago, when Xiao Qin used the flawless saber Dao, someone had already guessed that Wenziren was an alias, and that his true identity was the Blue Dragon King. However, at that time, Xiao Qin was only an inferior-grade martial sage. No one could connect him to the Blue Dragon King. At this moment, Xiao Qin's cultivation had returned to its peak. He had changed into the clear wind robes with the Blue Dragon King's insignia and the iconic Neptune headscarf. Who would not recognize him now? During the king conferral ceremony, Xiao Qin had defeated the outstanding talents everywhere, even the famous Fu Hongyao of Zodiac Hall, causing him to flee while covering his face. Who in the world did not know the Blue Dragon King? Even in the distant heavenly starry ocean, even if they had not seen his portrait, they would have heard of his name. The descendant of the Qing Emperor, the new generation Blue Dragon King, the peak of the Kunlun continent's younger generation, the white-robed Xiao Qin. Imo-chan was somewhat stunned. Imo-chan was slightly stunned, and a bitter smile appeared on her lips. He had already guessed that Xiao Qin had a great background. However, he had not expected it to be this great. It was so great that it completely surpassed his expectations, far surpassed his imagination. The Nine Cauldron Merchant Association's Mu Qinghan was dumbfounded. To think that he chased away such a legendary character like the Blue Dragon King. No wonder he dared to kill people in the City Lord's mansion. The Blue Dragon King even dared to cut the divine son Diwuk in half. Why would he care about a few descendants of the blue-robed emperor? Right now, Neptune's old subordinates are searching the world for him, wanting him to hand over Neptune's crown. They definitely would not expect Xiao Qin to be in our insignificant Cloud Sea domain. There's going to be a good show to watch. Although Gao Yangyu is the blue-robed emperor, he has only just become a blue-robed emperor. Against a peerless genius like Xiao Qin, the chances of him winning are now 50-50. There is still a chance. After all, it is the blue-robed emperor. It will be difficult for Xiao Qin to defeat Gao Yangyu. Xiao Qin had recovered his strength, and his identity was exposed. The surrounding cultivators all went into an uproar. No one had expected this. No one had expected the answer to be so shocking. Wenziren was the Blue Dragon King, Xiao Qin, such a legendary character. Gao Yangyu's expression turned sullen. The Emperor Yi's shooting son, Bao, concerned whether he could unify the Cloud Sea domain or not. Even if the other party was the Blue Dragon King, he had to fight for it. There is a huge difference between a blue-robed emperor and a great grandmaster-level martial sage. Without stepping into the realm of the blue-robed emperor, you will never understand how strong the blue-robed emperor is. Xiao Qin, hand over the divine Bao. I am willing to give you all my gains from this trip to the Treasure Mountain. Gao Yangyu's stance was unyielding, but his words implied that he was making a significant concession. Xiao Qin said coldly, blue-robed emperors are also divided into different levels. You're just a blue-robed emperor who has just started building bridges and has not even reached small perfection. Do you think I care about you? How arrogant. Today, even if you are the Blue Dragon King, I will make you fall here. Meteor punch. Gao Yangyu snorted coldly and stopped speaking. He took a step forward and stirred up winds and clouds. Then, he punched with a boundless aura at Xiao Qin. Gao Yangyu's fist contained the might of a meteor falling from the sky. His entire body turned into a blazing flame. When he took a step forward, it seemed like he could even pierce through the barrier of the sky. The explosive energy contained in the flames made even the cultivators 10 kilometers away feel fear. Is this the full power strike of the blue-robed emperor? How horrifying. I probably cannot even block half a punch. When several people saw Gao Yangyu's full power strike stirring up winds and clouds, wanting to pierce through the sky, they all felt fear in their hearts. Xiao Qin's expression remained calm. The blue-robed emperor's strike was indeed horrifying. However, Xiao Qin's law energy had already taken form. Every move of his could draw out vast energy. How could he feel fear? Your punch contains the will to pierce through the sky, wanting to pierce through the barrier of the sky. I have a punch as well. I hate the sky for being too low, not enough for me to spread my wings and soar. Xiao Chun spread his arms and faced Gao Yangyu's punch with a startling aura. He did not hesitate to clash with it. A huge shadow shone down. The Kuan Peng spread its wings and soared for 5,000 kilometers, hating the sky for being too low. The two fists clashed, and startling energy surged out in all directions like the tide. The winds and clouds moved, and the sky changed color. Xiao Chun, who was in the air, did not take a step back. Instead, he knocked Gao Yangyu back. Even the blue-robed emperor was knocked back by this punch. Xiao Chun could not help but feel proud. He smiled and said, "Is this the difference between heaven and earth that you were talking about? You're only SOSO. Receive another punch from me." Myriad Heaven Divine Fist, Eternal Myth. A golden light encased Xiao Chun, and an indomitable deity appeared behind him. This deity looked exactly like Xiao Chun, solemn and dignified, exuding a supreme might. Sagely songs resounded in the surroundings, praising Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun's legend resounded in the air. An epic scene appeared in all directions. Who was the legend? Not the distant deities, not the ancient sages. Instead, it was a nearby Xiao Chun, who carried 10,000 dragons and soared, eternal and inextinguishable. Bang! When the divine might gathered, the illusory deity behind Xiao Chun suddenly froze the instant he punched. It was like it was real as it punched together with Xiao Chun. When a deity made his move, a huge fist arrived in an instant. The great martial technique that Gao Yangyu had condensed and the momentum he gathered was scattered. With one punch, Gao Yangyu vomited blood and flew back. There was no trace of the blue-robed emperor's might, no trace of the demeanor that an expert like the blue-robed emperor should have. Gao Yangyu was beaten into a sorry state by a great grandmaster-level martial sage. Dusk of deities. Xiao Chun's expression remained calm. He did not feel complacent at all. He had to beat the blue-robed emperor to death in one go. Otherwise, when the blue-robed emperor caught his breath, he would not be able to avoid a fierce battle. The setting sun looked like blood, and dusk arrived. The legend came to an end, and a dirge resounded. Scarlet meteors tore through the sky, and it looked like a hazy rain of blood. The aura of the apocalypse spread in all directions. Everyone felt a sense of sorrow. It was like a civilization was withering before their eyes. Xiao Chun had studied this dusk of deities several times. Furthermore, he had personally seen the mysterious phenomenon of Emperor Forsaken's clone falling. He had already comprehended most of it. Using the scene of the apocalypse to bring out the state of the end was the essence of this punch. Punch after punch, the legend followed the apocalypse. Xiao Chun beat Gao Yangyu until he could not even respond. The momentum that he had just gathered scattered again. His complexion paled, and blood flowed out of his mouth continuously. Gao Yangyu moved his hands, and a horrifying aura flowed out. A surging flame appeared on his body. Trying to execute a profound martial technique to put your life on the line? It would be strange if I gave you the chance. Die. Xiao Chun pressed on, not giving his opponent any chance to turn the situation around. A strand of divine light entered his body as he executed the myriad heaven divine fist, deities descending. Xiao Chun's punch increased his combat prowess tenfold. A mist of blood soared into the air. Xiao Chun's punch directly smashed Gao Yangyu's corpse into nothingness. 3 punches. With just 3 punches, Xiao Chun killed a person who had stepped into the blue-robed emperor realm. The entire place fell silent. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. As they looked at the calm Xiao Chun in the air, fear flashed on their faces. There was no falsehood in his fame. The Blue Dragon King truly lived up to his reputation. When everyone looked around, no one else appeared. The 6 great loose cultivators were either dead, injured, or retreated. As long as the blue-robed emperor did not appear, no one could compete with Xiao Chun. Blue Dragon King, we the 8 city lords of the cloud sea domain, thank you for your generous gift. As the saying goes, it is impolite not to reciprocate. We, the 8 city lords, also have a gift. Keep it well. Just when everyone thought that no one could compete with Shao Chun for the Emperor Yi Shooting Sun Bao, 8 figures that should not appear suddenly leaped out of the crowd. 8 figures that should never have appeared suddenly leaped out from the crowd. The 8 quasi-emperors had actually appeared at the same time. The moment they appeared, they did not say anything. Without hesitation, they each sent out a killing move at Shao Chun, who was in the air. Resplendent light filled the sky. 8 attacks of different colors dyed the sky like a canvas, filling it with a pleasing beauty. However, this beautiful, mysterious phenomenon was accompanied by boundless killing intent. Everyone gaped. Was there still a way out of this? Was the Cloud Sea Domain really going to become the Blue Dragon King's burial ground? The 8 attacks contained the 8 different Daos of the 8 great blue-robed emperors. When they attacked at the same time, tiny cracks appeared in the stable space of the Kunlun realm. Fortunately, Shao Chun was used to seeing all sorts of life-or-death situations. If it were an ordinary person, they would have been frightened silly by such a formation. They would not even be able to retaliate before getting blasted into mush. At the critical moment, Shao Chun reacted quickly. 2 motes of light appeared in his eyes. 2 flames, one yin and one yang, surged out and chased each other, forming a Taiji yin-yang flame diagram. Yin-yang, the 8 trigrams and all sorts of mysterious phenomena appeared around the Taiji yin-yang flame diagram. They materialized a scene of primal chaos, condensing space and forming a small world out of nowhere. When the 8 killing moves landed on the Taiji yin-yang flame diagram, Shao Chen's mind trembled. Blood leaked out of a corner of his lips as he took 8 steps back. With each step, space trembled 8 times, trembling endlessly. The calm seawater below became like a mirror, cracks appearing in it and shattering. Boom! The Taiji yin-yang flame diagram lasted for a moment before shattering. However, it managed to block for a moment, significantly reducing the might of the 8 killing moves. Shao Chun did not move from his original spot. His fists danced, and 10,000 dragons surged in his body. Every move could stir up the wind and clouds, dealing with the moves as they came. After 2 or 3 breaths, Shao Chun dealt with these startling attacks with their overwhelming momentum. A cool breeze blew, and the seawater surged. Shao Chen's long hair draped over his shoulders as he hovered in the air. Even when the 8 blue-robed emperors appeared at the same time, it was hard to find any fluctuations on his face. He blocked it. Far away, the people in the Cloud Sea Domain, who had already hidden 10 kilometers away, revealed incredulous expressions when they saw Shao Chun standing in the air. The 8 blue-robed emperors had ruled the Cloud Sea Domain for many years. All of them were very strong. They were not like the half-baked Emperor Wu, like Gao Yangyu. All of them had reached small perfection of the blue-robed emperor. However, even with 8 small perfection Emperor Wu attacking together, their might overwhelming and space-shattering, Shao Chun still managed to block them. Everyone's gifts are really big. Shao Chun snorted coldly as he looked at the 8 city lords standing shoulder to shoulder in front, their faces filled with shock. The descendants of the 8 of us are not as big as your gifts. Wang Zhan's expression turned sullen. He had not expected that he would not be able to kill Shao Chun. Suddenly, he looked around and saw Emo Chun standing in the distance. Chapter 1044. An uncontrollable murderous intent flashed in Wang Zhan's eyes as he said coldly, "Bitch, if not for you, my son would not have died." Wang Zhan's figure flashed, and the winds and clouds changed. He arrived before Emo Chun and threw a palm strike. Under the encirclement of his aura, Emo Chun could not even move. It looked like Emo Chun would be smashed to death. Bang! An azure figure descended from the sky and glided over, shielding Emo Chun. Then, he threw a punch and blocked the palm strike for Emo Chun. The son of the blue-robed emperor actually worked together to bully a girl. Your son only has himself to blame. His death is a worthy one. Wang Zhan could not kill Mo Chun with one palm strike. He could not help but feel enraged. No one in the Cloud Sea domain can stop me if I want to kill someone. Dang, dang, dang. After pulling Mo Chun behind him, Xiao Chun did not say a word. He did not move at all, just like an old tree. As his fists danced, he blocked all of Wang Zhan's attacks. In the blink of an eye, the two exchanged more than 100 moves. Wang Zhan was surprised to discover that Xiao Qian's strength was only slightly inferior to his, a small perfection blue-robed emperor's. Xiao Qian's physical body was even stronger than Wang Zhan's. He did not show any fear when clashing head-on with Wang Zhan. His strong physical body could make up for the difference in strength. Horrifying waves resounded in the surroundings, and space trembled endlessly. However, the area behind Xiao Chun remained calm and peaceful, no matter how strong the shock waves outside were. The place where Mo Chun stood was always peaceful and tranquil. Blood-killing technique, fist breaking the 9 heavens. After another 100 moves, Wang Zhan lost his patience and directly executed his profound martial technique. Instantly, the sky behind Wang Zhan turned scarlet. An aura of massacre spread everywhere. A dense blood mist nearly turned into liquid, forming an extremely horrifying scene. Blood-killing fist. Now, Xiao Chun can only protect himself. This is Wang Zhan's famous martial skill. Back then, he relied on this punch to defeat the old city lord of Shattered Cloud City with a single punch. That was how he became the new city lord. However, Xiao Chun is terrifying enough. He is still a fine line away from the blue-robed emperor. Facing the blue-robed emperor's Wang Zhan, not only can he protect himself, but he can also protect a person for such a long time. The terrifying phenomenon caused by Wang Zhan's punch immediately attracted the attention of countless people. Xiao Chun punched out, and a blood mist filled the air, pouring into his fist. Before the fist light arrived, it already pushed back space. Even the distance between him and Xiao Chun slowly widened. Xiao Chun was startled when the blue-robed emperor executed a profound martial technique. Its might was indeed too horrifying. At this moment, Xiao Chun could no longer hold back. With a flip of his hand, Xiao Chun drew the lunar shadow saber. The bright moon, peach blossoms, summer, falling leaves, white snow, lightning, blue dragon, and many other mysterious phenomena flew out from his body the instant he grasped the saber hilt. The bright moon could be perfect and flawless. The peach blossoms could last for 50 kilometers. The blazing summer sun could burn the land for 500 kilometers. The merciless autumn wind could sweep the world. The boundless winter snow could freeze the land for thousands of kilometers. And the blue dragon could soar into the sky. All these mysterious phenomena were grand and glorious. One kind of glory could illuminate one's entire life. I have thousands of kinds of glory condensed into one saber. That instant is eternity. A saber light flashed, and the instant of glory appeared as Xiao Chun chopped out. They were both profound martial techniques. However, Xiao Qian's profound martial technique was the strongest killing move that he comprehended himself. Wang Zhan, on the other hand, was merely copying his ancestors, even though his cultivation was much higher. Naturally, there is no need to say who was stronger and who was weaker. When the strong clashed, Wang Zhan's famous martial technique lasted for only a moment before crumbling. The glory that belonged to Xiao Chun seemed eternal. A horrifying wound appeared on Wang Zhan's chest. Several of his ribs were broken. This saber strike knocked him back in a sorry state. The other city lords were greatly startled and quickly flew over to catch him. Bang! Xiao Chun sheathed his saber. The land behind him remained as peaceful as before. Ao Jiao, there are still 7 blue-robed emperors left. What are my chances of victory if I use Neptune's crown? After all, you did not comprehend Neptune's crown on your own. If the 7 blue-robed emperors make a move at the same time, they will be able to shatter the domain. It will not be of much use. That is to say, I have no chance of victory. More or less. However, if you want to leave now, no one can stop you. I understand. After a quick conversation with Ao Jiao, Xiao Chen looked at the various city lords in the air and felt that it was unfortunate. Originally, he had planned to deal with them one by one after he recovered his strength. Unexpectedly, they all came at him at the same time. That's fine. Since they all came, I'll just kill them all. If we do not eliminate this brat, we will definitely be the ones to die in the future. The 8 blue-robed emperors snorted coldly and attacked at the same time. This time, they did not just send out a simple killing move. Instead, they surrounded Xiao Chen, intending to kill him. The cultivators in the distance all revealed expressions of pity. Unfortunately, Xiao Chen was a powerful, outstanding talent, a hero of his generation, and a startling talent. Yet, these older generation characters ignored their status and worked together to kill him. Even if Xiao Chen had many magic skills, he would still have to die today. No one expected such an outcome. And Mo Chen, who was behind Xiao Chen, was so anxious that she started crying. She pushed Xiao Chen away and said, "Just go. Don't worry about me. I know you can leave." "You think you can leave? No one can save the two of you today. There is no way for you to survive." The 8 blue-robed emperors roared in unison, shaking the sky. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and said, "Is that so? However, I have a saber that is even higher than an emperor's. It can break the sky and chop down the moon." An azure-colored medallion appeared on Xiao Chen's fingertip. This medallion contained a saber light that the Qing Emperor left behind 10,000 years ago. With a thought, Xiao Chen instantly released the saber light in the blue dragon medallion. The world immediately turned black and white. A saber light flew out of the blue dragon medallion, crossing the river of time and space. 10,000 years ago, the unrivaled Qing Emperor swept through the world. His saber light reappeared in the world. Under this saber light, the 8 blue-robed emperors were chopped in half together with the space around them. This saber light split the sky. Sha! Sha! After a long time, the world regained its color. The bodies of the 8 blue-robed emperors seemed to fade away with the wind, vanishing into thin air. Dead. The 8 blue-robed emperors died, just like that, vanishing into thin air. There was nothing in the air that could prove the existence of the 8 blue-robed emperors, not even a speck of dust. If one had not seen it for themselves, no one would believe that the 8 blue-robed emperors had been here. What kind of saber light was that? The world was colorless, only black and white. It crossed time and space, a saber strike that lasted 10,000 years. The blue dragon medallion on Xiao Chen's finger recovered to its original state. The saber light was no longer there. In the future, he would not be able to use it to block Emperor Wu's aura. However, it did not matter. Xiao Chen did not feel any pity or regret. Whether it was worth it or not, he felt that it was worth it. Given Xiao Chen's strength, if he wanted to leave, no one would be able to stop him. He would not need the Qing Emperor's medallion at all. However, it was worth it to help Mo Chen clear the obstacles and not leave behind a mess. As long as he had a clear conscience, it would be worth it. There was no need to care about the gains and losses. In life, there were always some things that could not be measured in terms of gains and losses. "I'm leaving. Let's meet again if fate wills it. If you have any difficulties in the future, Miss Mo Chen can go to Heavenly Star Island and look for some of my friends. Let's meet again." The hardest thing to say was parting. However, he still had to say it when he needed to. All good things must come to an end. Xiao Chen was not a wishy-washy person. Mo Chen squeezed out a smile and said, "Let's meet again. Since you said you're leaving, then leave. Stop dilly-dallying." "Right?" Xiao Chen pushed off with his feet and soared into the air. Before everyone's eyes, he flew into the distance. "Wait a moment. This is for you." While in the air, Xiao Chen turned around. When Mo Chen called out to him, he waved his hand, and the grief pendant quickly flew towards her. The remnant flower was like blood filled with grief. The scarlet remnant flower had many illusions, flowing with light and vibrant colors, looking beautiful and sorrowful. The two had met because of this item and parted because of it. The sorrow of parting seemed to reflect the meaning of grief. Xiao Chen looked at the grief pendant in a somewhat distracted manner. In his rush to leave, he actually forgot about this most important item. Did he subconsciously choose to escape because he feared disappointment and loneliness? When the grief pendant arrived before Xiao Chun, he stretched out his hand and grabbed it firmly. Then, he turned his head back and happened to meet Imo Chen's gaze. Don't forget our agreement. When I reach the blue-robed emperor realm, I will definitely come and look for you. Xiao Chen smiled. This time, he really smiled. This time, it was no longer a white lie. I will wait for you. I will watch you knock on the emperor's door and personally watch you take off your veil. Imo Chen heaved a sigh of relief in her heart. Whether he was the Blue Dragon King or Wen Xiren, he was still the person who stretched out his cold hand to hold hers when everyone in the world abandoned her. Given this, nothing else mattered. When the thousands of cultivators in the Cloud Sea domain felt Xiao Chen's figure slowly vanish from their sight, they all felt that the one disappearing was not Xiao Chen's figure, but a living legend. In the 100,000 years of the martial epoch, there were countless people who could be called legends. Not to mention the ancient era sages. Even the Qing emperor from the later ancient era was a glorious legend. However, there was only one living legend, which was the Thunder King from the same era as the Qing emperor. Now, there was probably one more person, the Blue Dragon King Xiao Chun. Perhaps he was truly worthy of the word legend. Xiao Chun flew quickly. Along the way, he passed by an island. Then, he slowly floated down and landed firmly on the ground. The green robe on his body slowly changed, and once again returned to white. Due to the Blue Dragon King's insignia, the Clear Wind robes had already advanced from an unranked secret treasure to a Peak King grade secret treasure. However, it seemed like the azure energy in the medallion could not be used indefinitely. Earlier, when Xiao Chun fought with Wang Zhan, the Shattered Cloud City Lord, the azure energy in the medallion could not be used indefinitely. When Xiao Chun fought with Wang Zhan, the Clear Wind robes helped him withstand a lot of pressure, neutralizing a large portion of the other party's force. This time, the Clear Wind robes exhausted too much energy, so it entered a state of replenishment. Xiao Chun checked the Clear Wind robes and did not care. The color of his robes did not affect him much. Xiao Chun stopped to wait for a person, an old friend of his from the Sky Dome realm. Taking advantage of the free time, Xiao Chun took out the Emperor Shooting Sun bow, the greatest harvest of this trip. Then, he fiddled with it with a smile. The design of the bow was exceptionally magnificent. It was a fiery red, and the two ends of the bow were like wings. When Xiao Chun gently plucked the bowstring, the wings flapped gently, and the entire bow seemed to come to life. Xiao Chun sighed with some regret. Without the item spirit, even if this bow came to life, it still lacked the most crucial charm. Chapter 1045. It had eyes but no spirit. It needed the finishing touch to revive the item spirit. Only then could this divine bow regain its former glory. Oh, that's right. Ao Jiao. I keep hearing people talk about the divine weapon ranking. What kind of existence is the divine weapon ranking? Why is it that the divine weapons on the divine weapon ranking contain divine might and rival primordial emperor treasures? Xiao Chun asked as he put away the sun-shooting bow. Ao Jiao explained, I'm not clear on the exact reason. This ranking has existed since the birth of the martial epoch. As long as the divine weapon in your hand reaches a certain level, it will push down another divine weapon and automatically enter the ranking. It is that miraculous? It really is that miraculous. I heard from Sang Mu that the ranking was carved on a divine stone. In the past, his greatest wish was for the Thunder King's mulberry sword to enter the ranking when it became a divine weapon. Unfortunately, Xiao Chun smiled and said, It's fine. When the Lunar Shadow Sword becomes a divine weapon, I will definitely let it enter the divine weapon ranking. I also look forward to that day. At that time, I will know the answer and answer your question. Ao Jiao paused for a while before saying, Your friend is here. Xiao Chun looked up and saw Xianyuan Zhantian's figure slowly appearing in his vision. As he got closer, he landed on the island. It was rare for Xiao Chun to meet Xianyuan Zhantian in the Cloud Sea domain. Naturally, he wanted to catch up with him. Before he left, he sent a voice projection to Xianyuan Zhantian. It has been 3 years since we last met. It looks like Brother Xianyuan has had a lot of fortuitous encounters. Xiaoqin said calmly. Xianyuan Zhantian's current strength was much weaker than his. However, compared to the outstanding talents of the Kunlun continent, Xianyuan Zhantian was probably no weaker. Xianyuan Zhantian's will of kingship still had many areas that he could dig out. His potential was even greater. Xianyuan Zhantian did not deny it. He smiled and said, "Not bad. The sea is my true home. Here, I raised my state of kingship to a will. Then, I had a fortuitous encounter and practiced a cultivation technique for merging the will into the physical body, the Battle King art. I just reached small perfection. Defeating a regular great Grandmaster level martial sage is already easy. It is not difficult. Merging the will with the physical body. This was the first time Xiao Chun had heard of this. How could one merge the will with the body? The next level of will was the domain. As long as the will of water was raised to the limit, it could evolve into water comprehension. The will of thunder, the will of ice, and the will of fire followed the same principle. The domain represented by the will of kingship was the king's domain. It was a very strong domain. Once Xianyuan Zhantian comprehended it, he would be able to surpass many of his opponents. Xianyuan Zhantian noticed Xiao Chen's doubts. He smiled and said, "The heavenly starry ocean is a very vast world. Before the last Neptune died, the inheritance of the martial Tao had never been broken or destroyed. Many of the things related to martial Tao are even more complete than in the Kunlun continent. From what I know, the will of thunder can also fuse with the body. Fire and ice can do the same. There are even 2 types of will that can fuse with the body. For example, lightning, fire, wind, and snow. This world has never lacked geniuses." Xianyuan Zhantian spoke of some of his experiences in the heavenly starry ocean, widening Xiao Chen's horizons. "Given your strength, there is no need for you to remain in the cloud sea domain, right?" Xiao Chen asked. Xianyuan Zhantian nodded and said, "Originally, I was prepared to leave the cloud sea domain after the trip to the treasure mountain to continue seeking fortuitous encounters. After that, I would display my skills at the Four Seas Hero Gathering." "What is the Four Seas Hero Gathering?" Xiao Chen looked at Xianyuan Zhantian interestedly, waiting for a detailed explanation. Xianyuan Zhantian smiled and said, "The Four Seas Hero Gathering is also known as the Four Seas Hero Gathering. It is held once every 20 years and is a major event that will shake the entire heavenly starry ocean. It is hosted by the Lunar Palace, an immortal holy land." Immortal holy land? This was the first time Xiao Chun heard of this term, so he asked out of curiosity. Xianyuan Zhantian explained, "This is a term that I gave myself. You should be familiar with holy lands. There are about 5 or 6 holy lands that still exist in the Kunlun continent. However, in my opinion, these are not immortal holy lands. They experienced the 100 Race War and the even more horrifying War of Emperors. All the holy lands of the Kunlun continent from the ancient era, like the Firely sect, suffered a destructive blow and lost their inheritance. Only after 10,000 years, 50,000 years, or 100,000 years can they be called immortal holy lands. Because the heavenly starry ocean has always been ruled by Neptune, Neptune's inheritance has been passed down from generation to generation. There have never been any large-scale war of emperors. Hence, the holy lands attached to the palace of Neptune never lost their inheritance. Of course, there are also holy lands that disappeared in the long river of history due to insufficient luck. Now, there are only 6 immortal holy lands in the heavenly starry ocean. They're the Zodiac Hall, the Five Poison Sect, the Inyang Paradise, the Myriad Fiend Island, the Heavenly Province Academy, and the Frost Moon Palace. In the past, there was an extremely strong holy land of the Buddhist sects, the Minor Lane Temple. Unfortunately, 10,000 years ago, the Qing Emperor led the Dragon's Gate into the heavenly starry ocean. They targeted the Minor Lane Temple and completely destroyed it. An immortal holy land. So this is an immortal holy land. It looks like the factions of the heavenly starry ocean are much stronger than I imagined. Furthermore, There is actually a mysterious holy land of the Buddhist sects in the heavenly starry ocean. Furthermore, the Qing emperor destroyed it. Xiao Chun thought to himself. Then he asked, is the Northern Sea Alliance not considered an immortal holy land? Before Xiao Chun entered the heavenly starry ocean, he had heard of the Northern Sea Alliance's fame. Xinyuan Zhantian shook his head and said, naturally, it cannot be considered one. It is just an alliance formed by many factions. Of course, its strength is no weaker than that of a holy land. Some ancient noble clans are as strong as a holy land. However, they're too closed off. In my opinion, they cannot be considered holy lands. After that, Xinyuan Zhantian sighed. Right now, the heavenly starry ocean is very vast. There are millions of sects and billions of islands. The factions are intertwined with each other, competing for resources and fighting with each other. The Holy Lands are the first to bear the brunt. It is very chaotic. No one is willing to submit to anyone else. Xiao Qun smiled and said, it is indeed very chaotic. There are immortal holy lands, ancient noble clans, huge factions like the Northern Sea Alliance, and the various factions that rose up later on. Xinyuan Zhantian glanced at Xiao Chun and smiled. Speaking of chaos, this matter actually has something to do with you. When the Qing Emperor destroyed the Neptune Palace with the strength of the Dragon's Gate, it should have been able to suppress the various holy lands. Unfortunately, the Qing Emperor mysteriously fell, and the Dragon's Gate was destroyed. The heavenly starry ocean fell into chaos. If you can really rebuild the Dragon's Gate and reach the height of the Qing Emperor, you might be able to restore peace to the heavenly starry ocean. Unexpectedly, there was such a thing. Xiao Qun was not willing to dwell on this topic, so he changed the topic. Let's talk about the Four Seas Hero Gathering. Why is the Lunar Palace holding such a grand event? Xinyuan Zhantian did not find this troublesome. He explained in detail, and Xiao Qun finally understood the ins and outs of the Four Seas Hero Gathering. The Lunar Palace's position transcended the world. They did not have any ambitions, but they were extremely strong, respected by everyone. The Lunar Palace originally held the Four Seas Hero Gathering to choose the outstanding young talents of the entire heavenly starry ocean to compete with the immortal cultivators of the Penglai Sea. The Lunar Palace used the battles of the younger generation to resolve the conflicts and disputes between the heavenly starry ocean and the Penglai Sea. However, now, the Penglai Sea pursued the idea of secluding itself from the world and rarely had any conflicts with the heavenly starry ocean. The original purpose of the Four Seas Hero Gathering no longer existed. As of now, the Four Seas Hero Gathering was just a stage for the outstanding young talents of the various holy lands to bare their fangs and fight for fame. Furthermore, the Lunar Palace would take out an extremely important prize every time the Four Seas Hero Gathering was held, making the scale of the Four Seas Hero Gathering larger and larger. The Four Seas Hero Gathering was deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. Xinyuan Zhantian said, there is still one more year before the Four Seas Hero Gathering begins. At that time, you can go and join in the excitement. Xiao Qun shook his head and said, I am not interested in these things. Heavenly Star Island still faces many dangers. I have to think of a way to raise my strength quickly. Xinyuan Zhantian knew that Xiao Chun was speaking the truth. After chatting for a long time, he performed a cup fist salute and took his leave. On this trip to the Treasure Mountain, the two of them had gained something. They definitely had to summarize their gains and could not chat for too long. Actually, you can go and take a look at the Four Seas Hero Gathering. The Frost Moon Palace is full of female disciples. Ao Jiao teas from the Immortal Spirit Ring. Under Ao Jiao's care, the most precious spirit tree in the Immortal Spirit Ring, the Lunar Cassia tree, was growing healthily. It looked like it was about to bloom again. Of course, this was because Xiao Chun had infused a peak spirit vein into the Immortal Spirit Ring. We'll see. Right now, Xiao Chun was very busy. He had already taken out the 10 jade strips from the 10,000 treasure pavilion. He sent in his spiritual sense and checked anxiously, hoping to find a profound martial technique suitable for him. Profound spear technique. heaven-burning spear technique. Xiao shook his head and placed a jade strip to the side. Clearly, he could not practice this. Sword technique, staff technique, spear technique. In the blink of an eye, Xiao tossed out 5 or 6 jade strips. He could not use any of them. He could not help but reveal an expression of disappointment. Profound saber technique, 1,000 frost battle snow. Xiao face lit up in joy. There was finally a profound martial technique for the saber technique. He had thought that he would be really unlucky if there was no saber technique among the 10 jade strips. Furthermore, it was an ice-attributed martial technique. What Xiao lacked right now was an ice-attributed martial technique. This 1,000 frost battle snow was perfect for him. Xiao carefully put away this jade strip. Then, he checked the other 3 jade strips and discovered that they did not have much to do with him. However, that did not matter. It was already pretty good that he could find a profound martial technique that was so compatible with him. As for the remaining 9 jade strips, he could make copies of them and auction them off. Every single one of them would fetch a sky-high price. A profound martial technique could easily fetch a price of 1 million black astral coins, perhaps even higher. With a flip of his palm, a spatial ring appeared. This was the spatial ring of the loose cultivator Gao Yongyu. Xiao was already very familiar with killing people and snatching their treasures. The instant Xiao killed Gao Yongyu, this spatial ring silently landed in his hand. After all, Xiao had already reached the level of the blue-robed emperor. Gao Yongyu's wealth would definitely bring him a great surprise. The only unfortunate thing was that Qing Emperor's saber strike was too horrifying. He had killed the 8 blue-robed emperors until not even a speck of dust remained. Naturally, there was no hope of obtaining a spatial ring. Otherwise, if Xiao could obtain all the spatial rings of the 8 blue-robed emperors, his already rich wealth would soar once again. Chapter 1046. After thinking for a while, Xiao handed the spatial rings to Ao Jiao and got her to sort them out. He also handed the spatial rings of the 2 Sun Palace elite disciples and a young master of the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion to Ao Jiao. The items in the spatial rings were all over the place, so organizing them took a lot of time. Since Ao Jiao could help, Xiao was naturally happy to do so. Xiao still had more important things to do. He needed to merge the Solar True Flame and the Purple Thunder True Fire and cultivate the 1,000 Frost Battle Snow. After the heavenly laws took form, he still needed to stabilize them and make the final preparations for breaking through to the blue-robed emperor. When the time was right, he would immediately start forging the bridge to heaven. All these would require at least 2 months of closed-door cultivation. The blue-robed emperor was a bridge that connected to the other shore, a bridge to heaven that opened the emperor's door. The chasm between heaven and earth was extremely vivid. One step across, it was the difference between heaven and earth. From then on, Xiao would be reborn, reaching the top of the world's pyramid in 1 step. Most cultivators in the world would not be able to reach this chasm and see the emperor's door on the other shore. From martial disciple to martial master, martial grandmaster, martial saint, martial king, martial monarch, and martial sage, Xiao had spent 12 years cutting his way through all the obstacles. Now, he finally reached a level that countless people could not reach in their lifetimes, standing before the chasm between heaven and earth. Outsiders would not know how many life and death situations Xiao had experienced and how much bitterness he had suffered. No one could imagine that Xiao could not cultivate normally until he was 16. He was several years slower than regular cultivators and at least 10 years slower than those outstanding talents. However, Xiao relied on his tenacious perseverance to endure unimaginable loneliness and solitude. Finally, he overtook most of the outstanding talents of the Kunlun continent. He took the lead and stood before the chasm between heaven and earth. It was like what Xiao had always believed in. A person's talent only determined how fast they could go. Only perseverance determined how far they could go. On a desolate island in the calm sea, Xiao sat cross-legged. As long as he calmed down, he could enter a wondrous state. A natural barrier that seemed to have been cut off by someone appeared before him. At the end of the barrier was a clump of fog. Xiaochen did not know how far away it was. He could vaguely make out a golden door in the fog. This was the Emperor's door. When he finished building the bridge, the Emperor's door would appear in reality. The path to heaven descended, and brightly colored heavenly flowers descended to receive him. Then the Xiaochen would send down the heavenly road and bring him up. Xiaochen sank his consciousness into his dantian. The 10,000 dragon-shaped heavenly sage laws all gave off a crystalline light. His potential as a martial sage had already reached its limit. He could no longer make any progress. Even if a Holy Spirit vein or a King's Spirit vein was placed before him, he would not be able to absorb it. Only by transforming the heavenly sage laws into the higher-level heavenly laws, becoming compatible with the world and returning to the natural state, could one continue to improve. In Chun had sovereign, Chun had spirit wu ao qi to ling. On the other hand, he had spirit wu ao qi to check if his potential had reached its limit. This was very important. If Xiaochen had not reached its limit, he had to find out what potential he could dig out. Otherwise, if Xiaochen started transforming his heavenly laws, he would suffer a great loss. At that time, as a blue-robed emperor, he would be much weaker than the other outstanding talents. For example, before Xiaochen's heavenly laws took form, there were only 5,000 of them. If Xiaochen had transformed his heavenly laws at that time, he would have lost half of his heavenly laws, becoming a blue-robed emperor and regretting it. Ao Jiao, who was helping Xiaochen tidy up the many spatial rings, felt startled when she saw Xiaochen's heavenly sage laws. Back then, the Thunder King's heavenly laws had also taken form. However, he had reached his limit with only 7,000 heavenly laws. Now, Xiaochen had reached this level and had 3,000 more heavenly sage laws than the Thunder King. With such a level, Ao Jiao guessed that even in the ancient era, when the martial epic was at its most glorious, Xiaochen would have ranked at the top, surpassing most of the predecessors. Furthermore, Xiaochen had a peak rank 4 sage body and cultivated both his physical body and his heavenly laws. It was hard to imagine how far Xiaochen could go in the future. Sovereign Martial Emperor, Prime, or even higher, the martial god realm that only appeared in legends? Seeing that Xiaochen had no intention of opening his eyes, Ao Jiao was startled. Could it be that Xiaochen was planning to enter the blue-robed emperor realm now? However, after thinking about it, this was normal. Xiaochen's cultivation had fallen for 3 months before recovering. Everything came naturally when the conditions were right. There would not be any unstable cultivation or unstable foundation. Since ancient times, there had never been a great grandmaster-level martial sage who severely injured themselves, causing their cultivation to fall and cultivating bitterly again when they were about to enter the blue-robed emperor realm. No one dared to take such a risk with their hard-earned cultivation. Xiaochen managed to reach this step because of Neptune's crown and coincidentally. Now that Xiaochen knew the benefits of breaking through to establishing himself, he dared to attempt to enter the blue-robed emperor realm at this moment. Otherwise, even if Xiaochen was beaten to death, he would not have purposely severely injured himself, causing his cultivation to fall to martial monarch. Xiaochen thought about his initial predicament on the Purple Cloud warship, where 10-odd martial monarchs held their weapons to his neck. He nearly died at the hands of a minor character like a martial monarch. If word got out that the Blue Dragon King fell because of this, he would become a laughingstock, mocked for thousands of years. Days passed. At some point in time, motes of electric light fell on Xiaochen's body, increasing in number until they formed a large electric cocoon surrounding him. Ao Jiao did not find this strange. Many years ago, the Thunder King had reached this step as well. While joy appeared on Xiaochen's face, there was also some worry. Normally, there would not be any danger in transforming heavenly sage laws into heavenly laws. However, if one rushed it, one might end up in a state of berserking chi deviation and die. Don't be too anxious because of the pressure of re-establishing the Dragon's Gate. Ao Jiao felt very frustrated as she watched Xiao Chan charge to enter the blue-robed Emperor realm. She felt even more anxious than the Thunder King back then. The Thunder King was alone with no worries. However, Xiao Chun carried the title of the Qing Emperor's descendant along the way, shouldering the heavy burden of re-establishing the Dragon's Gate. The pressure of the two could not be mentioned in the same breath. After much difficulty, Ao Jiao managed to clear out most of the treasures. Then, she sent out a palm strike and scattered the treasures everywhere. As Xiao Chun looked at the electric cocoon, his eyes filled with worry. The more he thought about it, the more afraid he became. If Xiao Chun knew about this, he would definitely not know whether to laugh or cry. After a long time, a trace of calmness flashed in Ao Jiao's eyes as she turned around. Then, she tidied up the scattered treasures. She blew off the dust on them and sorted them out. He was meticulous and orderly, and there was no longer any trace of frustration on his face. He only buried his worry deep in his heart. Eastern Sea, Neptune's old subordinates, in a secret room of a palace in the Eastern Sea Divine Dragon Palace's territory. When Lung Xiaofan read the news he had just received, his expression turned gloomy. Neptune's daughter, Princess Qin, lay quietly among the flowers beside Lung Xiaofan, sleeping quietly. Xiao Chun had destroyed a blue-robed emperor with 3 punches, sent the small perfection blue-robed emperor flying with 1 saber strike, and finally used his trump card to kill 8 blue-robed emperors with 1 saber strike. Lung Xiaofan did not feel surprised at Xiao Chen's sudden increase in strength. He continued to calmly calculate and plan in his heart. Xiao Chen carefully read every single word of the news again. Then, 2 crucial scenes appeared in his mind. After swallowing 10 peak spirit veins, Xiao Chen's strength suddenly soared, and he used the Qing Emperor's medallion to kill 8 blue-robed emperors. The former meant that Xiao Chen's strength soared in such a short time. He needed to cultivate quietly to stabilize his cultivation. Xiao Chan was definitely still in the Cloud Sea domain and could not have gone far. The latter meant that the talisman that the Thunder King gave Xiao Chun had already been used up. Adding the two together, the conclusion was that this was the best opportunity to kill Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun did not have a talisman and was cultivating. If he waited for Xiao Chun to stabilize his cultivation, it would be even more difficult to kill him. Aside from some exceptions, Lung Xiaofan's guess was close to the truth. This was a rather difficult person to deal with. After a while, Lung Xiaofan sent an order to his subordinates. Tell the Southern Sea Divine Dragon Palace that they only need to send out 3 blue-robed emperors to search for desolate islands within 250 kilometers of where the treasure mountain appeared. Then, they will be able to find the cultivating Xiao Chun. After killing the target, he does not want a Neptune crown or all the treasures on Xiao Chun. However, he must keep the Neptune crown for him. If there is any exchange, the other party can make any requests. There were many conflicts between the Dragon Kings of the 4 seas. Everyone wanted to be the boss, to gather all the old subordinates of Neptune. As the Eastern Sea Divine Dragon King's descendant, Lung Xiaofan held great authority in the Eastern Sea Divine Dragon Palace. However, he could not order the Southern Sea Divine Dragon Palace around. However, as long as Lung Xiaofan passed this news to the other party, the Neptune crown on Xiao Chun would automatically attract the other party to do as he said. The sparks of lightning on the desolate island were like rain, never stopping since the start. The purple lightning cocoon lost its initial bright color and turned a deep purple. The various treasures in the spatial ring were already organized. Ao Jiao propped up her chin, her gaze never leaving the lightning cocoon. It has been 2 months. Xiao Chun has already accumulated enough. When the conditions are right, success will follow. Logically speaking, the conversion of his heavenly sage laws should have reached consummation long ago, Ao Jiao muttered. Ao Jiao muttered softly. However, she also relaxed. 2 months was enough to show that Xiao Chun did not panic or rush things. Xiao Chun still sought speed with stability. As long as nothing unexpected happened, Xiao Chun was confident of advancing to the blue-robed emperor realm. If nothing unexpected happened, Xiao Chun should be able to break out of the cocoon soon. Just as Xiao Chun thought this, Ao Jiao suddenly frowned. She gently slapped the ground and stood up. Then, she looked into the distance. There were 3 powerful auras in front of them. They were rushing over quickly, and the strength of each of them was not weaker than any of the 8 city lords. 3 small perfection blue-robed emperor experts working together to charge over. They really know how to pick the right time to make their move. Ao Jiao's expression turned frosty as a murderous intent brewed in her eyes. She stretched out her hand, and the lunar shadow saber stabbed into the ground beside. Xiao Chun silently flew into her grasp. Chapter 10:47. Xiao Chun turned her head back to look at the lightning cocoon and sighed. I just knew that this fellow would not be peaceful after he becomes the blue-robed emperor. Xiao Chen's figure flashed, and Ao Jiao hugged the lunar shadow saber as she landed beside the lightning cocoon. Her figure slowly dimmed and finally vanished into thin air, as though she was no longer there. Buzz! The 3 blue-robed emperors of the Southern Sea, Divine Dragon Palace, wore black dragon robes and withdrew their auras. They landed firmly on the desolate island, their eyes filled with excitement as they looked at the lightning cocoon not far away. What a fellow! The information that Lung Xiaofan brought is indeed correct. This Xiao Chun is really on a desolate island within 250 kilometers. Furthermore, he actually chose this time to make his breakthrough to the blue-robed emperor. The youth on the right, the blue-robed emperor, laughed softly as he carried a saber on his back. The lightning cocoon was a sign of a lightning-attributed cultivator making his breakthrough to the blue-robed emperor. Combined with the information that Long Xiaofan brought, there was no need to guess. There was no need to guess. It was definitely Xiao Chun inside. Being able to obtain Neptune's crown and offer it to the Dragon King is a great merit. The tall, skinny, black-haired youth on the left could not hide his joy. Only the white-haired old man in the middle showed a calm expression. He remained silent as he looked around cautiously. He raised his hand and pointed, and an ice sword chi shot out from his fingertip. The moment the sword chi appeared, frost immediately covered the ground. Clearly, his will of ice had reached an extremely high level. The crystalline sword chi looked solid. When the sunlight shone on it, it gave off a boundless glow. This made the sword chi that flashed by look like a beam of light flying out of his hand. Kung Chong. When the sword chi struck the lightning cocoon, it gave off a melodious clang. Electric light flickered, and the ice sword chi turned into mist and vanished. The huge lightning cocoon did not budge at all. Not a single crack appeared. The 3 were stunned at the same time, feeling incredulous. The blue-robed emperor, who carried a saber on his back, was flabbergasted. What a strong lightning cocoon! What kind of accumulation did this fellow have for him to make his breakthrough to the blue-robed emperor? I'll go smash him. The tall and skinny blue-robed emperor had a fiery temper. He took a step forward and was ready to kill his way through. The white-haired old man said solemnly, Ping Jun, be careful. Haha, don't worry, old chum. He's at a critical moment now. Even if he knows that we're here, he'll be helpless. He's dead for sure today. The blue-robed emperor, named Ping Jun, laughed madly, without a care in the world. Indeed, if Xiao Chun were to stop attacking the blue-robed emperor at this moment, all his previous efforts would be in vain, but he would definitely suffer serious internal injuries from the recoil of a loss. No matter how one looked at it, fighting against 3 lesser-tier blue-robed emperors with a weak body was a hopeless situation. However, if he did not give up, he would only become a dead target. Passively receiving attacks from others would also result in death. No matter how one looked at it, it was a dead end. There was no possibility of survival. From tens of thousands of kilometers away, Lung Xiaofan managed to push Xiao Chun into desperate straits with just a few words. This person's stratagem could be said to be unparalleled. Unfortunately, everything in the world had a chance of survival. Out of 50, 9 out of 40 would be used. Even if one was gone, there would always be a chance of survival. This chance of survival for Xiao Chun rested on Ao Jiao. Ping Jun's figure flickered and a red light flickered on his body. The clouds in the sky churned, and strong winds blew. Horrifying energy flowed out of the heavenly law imprint in his body and gathered in his body. His body merged with the sky. As he flew over, he merged with the world. Then he suddenly attacked and punched. The energy that Xiao Chun drove seemed to move the entire world. This was the strength of the blue-robed emperor. He returned to his natural state, merging with the world and forming heavenly laws. Every move of his could bring out the power of the world. It looked like the horrifying attack was about to strike the lightning cocoon. If the berserk energy struck it, the lightning tribulation would definitely shatter. Xiao Chun, who was in the middle of it, could not continue even if he wanted to. He could only allow the blue-robed emperor to stop attacking and suffer the backlash of the law energy. However, in the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, a resplendent saber light lit up in the void. The saber light flickered for an instant. The instant the saber light flashed, a flash of divine lightning appeared in the sky. Dark clouds covered the sky, casting darkness for 5 kilometers around. Before Ping Jun could react, this saber light struck his body. He could not dodge or defend at all. Damn it! Xiao Chun roared ferociously. At the final moment before the saber light chopped him in half, he punched Ao Jiao. Kasie, the divine lightning, turned into a thunder rock. As the saber light chopped down, Ping Jun's body was chopped in half. Electric light burst out and shattered his body. When Ao Jiao suddenly attacked, the blue-robed emperor's small perfection Ping Jun was chopped into pieces, not even leaving a corpse behind. This sudden change caught the white-haired old man and the other black-haired youth off guard. They did not even have a chance to save Xiao Chun. Ao Jiao suffered a punch from Ping Jun before he died. She was significantly injured, and her body looked somewhat illusory. She was no longer as lifelike as before. However, she grasped the lunar shadow saber tightly and looked coldly at the two in front. She stood guard beside the lightning cocoon, not moving at all. Item spirit, an item spirit with the cultivation of the blue-robed emperor. When the two saw the situation clearly and saw the lunar shadow saber in Ao Jiao's hand, their gazes turned fervent. An item spirit with the cultivation of the blue-robed emperor. If such a subdivine weapon could reach divine weapon rank in the future, it would most likely rank in the divine weapon ranking. Even if it did not rank in the divine weapon ranking, it would still be an extremely precious divine weapon. Its value far surpassed that of other divine weapons. Haha, not bad. I want this saber. The black-haired youth smiled faintly and said, "The Blue Dragon King is really a human-shaped treasure trove. He has an extraordinary amount of good things on him. You want it? Are you qualified?" Just at this moment, cracks appeared in the deep purple lightning cocoon. A voice came from it. Kasie, Kasie. The lightning cocoon shattered into pieces, and thousands of electric lights surged out, forming a huge purple pillar of light soaring into the sky. Xiao Chun stood in the light, dressed in white. Winds blew in all directions, and clouds gathered. His body merged with the heavens. With a thought, he could stir up the winds and clouds. Xiao Chen's gaze was like lightning as he looked at the two in front. The aura of a king looking down on the world surged out as his gaze moved. The white-haired old man and the black-haired youth revealed horrified expressions. They could not help but take 2 steps back. Ao Jiao revealed joy on her face. Xiao Chun succeeded. After 12 years of life and death battles, he finally became an emperor. Attacked together. When the white-haired old man and the black-haired youth saw that Xiao Chun had successfully broken through to the blue-robed emperor realm, they pressured them with their auras with just one look. The two steeled their hearts. They knew that if they did not work together, they had no chance of victory. They shouted coldly and charged over. Within the pillar of lightning, Xiao Chun watched the two flying over quietly. He was as unmoving as a mountain, standing like an old pine tree. He used his hands to face his enemies. The 3 blue-robed emperors merged with the heavens. Every move they made drove the power of the world. When they attacked, the world changed. The ground spun, and the sky spun. The distant sea and the nearby mountain were like illusions. They appeared around the three like fleeting lights and passing shadows. The blue-robed emperor's combat style was already very different from that of ordinary cultivators. Just by raising his hand, he could stir up the wind and clouds. Every move he made could draw on the power of the world. Such a scene was not a mysterious phenomenon or an illusion. It was a natural phenomenon produced when the power of the world was frequently driven. Their figures flickered, and the three quickly exchanged 100 moves. Xiao Chun countered every move. His hands moved like lightning, moving unpredictably. He blocked all the moves of the black-haired youth and the white-haired old man. Soon, 100 moves passed. Suddenly, there was a loud explosion. The desolate island under them could no longer endure the power of the world driven by the three's heavenly laws. Boom! The vast sea vanished into thin air. A huge black whirlpool appeared in the seawater, swallowing up the surrounding seawater. The three fell into the whirlpool, and the seawater spun on both sides, rumbling endlessly. However, the expressions of the three did not change. They ignored the whirlpool and continued to attack at lightning speed. The shock waves from the exchange and the power of the world, driven by the heavenly laws, prevented the black hole from filling up. Instead, the whirlpool expanded. Soon, it reached 10 kilometers in diameter. How many heavenly sage laws did he accumulate before he tried to break through to the blue-robed emperor realm? The black-haired youth and the white-haired old man felt increasingly startled. They had already been in the blue-robed emperor realm for several decades. The power of the world that the heavenly laws could drive should far surpass that of Xiao Chun, who had just advanced to the blue-robed emperor realm. However, in reality, Xiao Chun could drive more power of the world than the two of them combined, even though he was fighting one against two. From the very beginning, Xiao Chun had been suppressing them. As the three fell, the end of the whirlpool extended downwards. Bang! It extended to the bottom of the sea, spreading out in all directions. Looking down from the sky, the flat surface of the sea looked like a bottomless pit that was closing up at an extremely fast speed. Boom! The seawater suddenly merged together. The instant it merged, an overwhelming pillar of water shot out, shattering the clouds. It looked like it pierced through the sky. Three figures leaped out of the water pillar. They were Xiao Chen's group of three, who had just stopped fighting. In a short time, the two had already exchanged thousands of moves, fighting from the ground to the bottom of the sea, and then from the bottom of the sea to the clouds. This was the true battle between the blue-robed emperor realms. The black-haired youth and the white-haired old man appeared to be in sorry states. The instant the seawater merged, the three had shown some openings. However, the one who grasped these openings was Xiao Chun. Despite moving later, he arrived first, punching the two in the chest, severely injuring them. Even now, they were in pain. Let's go. Once he becomes stronger, we will not be able to stop him, the white-haired old man said sullenly. Then, the two turned and left. In the earlier 1,000 moves, they had exhausted a lot of energy. Furthermore, they were injured. If they did not leave now, they would not be able to. Xiao Chun said calmly, "You can come and go as you please. How can there be such a good thing?" Ao Jiao, saber. Ao Jiao smiled faintly and sheathed her saber. Then, she turned into a beam of light and entered the saber, chasing after Xiao Chun. Ao Jiao was the Lunar Shadow Saber's item spirit. However, most of the time, she was not willing to remain in the saber. The true might of the Lunar Shadow Saber, the sharpness of a subdivine weapon, was rarely revealed. Xiao Chun stretched out his hand and drew the Lunar Shadow Saber the instant it brushed past him. An unparalleled sharpness spread out in the world. Metallic sounds reverberated in all directions. Boundless saber intent filled the air. Chapter 1048. Xiao Chun pushed off the air, and his body suddenly spun around, executing instant of glory. Bright moon and autumn wind, a world of its own with each spin. As Xiao Chun spun around, mysterious phenomena appeared. The scene was grand and majestic. With that instant of saber light, it turned into eternal glory. The black-clad youth fleeing in the back showed a grave expression. He took out 3 ancient shields, trying to block this saber. However, now that the lunar shadow saber had Ao Jiao in it, its might rivaled that of a regular divine weapon. How could a few Peak King grade shields block it? This moment of instant of glory was eternal. The black-clad youth's body was chopped in half along with the shields. Xiao Chan stretched out his hand, and the spatial ring that the black-clad youth left behind flew into his grasp. Then, he looked at the white-haired old man who was already far away and did not give chase. Now that Xiao Chan had reached the threshold of the blue-robed emperor, as long as the great perfection blue-robed emperor did not appear, the small perfection blue-robed emperor would find it hard to suppress him. Xiao Chan looked around and found another desolate island. His body seemed to vanish into thin air as he landed on it. Some of the wondrous uses of heavenly laws could be infused into movement techniques by drawing on the power of the world. However, when one's speed reached its limit, they could increase it by 10%. This was something that Xiao Chan comprehended in the earlier battle. Ao Jiao came out of the saber, revealing a smile on her face. She opened her hand, revealing a blue-robed emperor's spatial ring. I heard their conversation. They're the people of the Southern Sea Divine Dragon Palace. That is, they're the old subordinates of Neptune, the faction of the Southern Sea Dragon King. Ao Jiao said softly. Xiao Chan frowned slightly. The other party should be here for Neptune's crown. From a moment Xiao Chan came into contact with the 7 heroes of the dragon, he felt that someone was hiding in the darkness like a venomous snake, targeting him. However, Xiao Chan did not know anything about this person. He did not know the other party's true purpose. Forget it. As long as the other party's plan didn't succeed, there would always be a chance to capture the other party. Before that, he could only continue to improve his strength. Xiao Chan collected his thoughts and smiled slightly. He handed the space ring in his hand to Ao Jiao. Thanks for your help this time. If it wasn't for Ao Jiao, who had blocked a blow for him at the most crucial moment, he would have been in grave danger. Ao Jiao took the ring and curled her lips. Hee, this is the reward you gave me. You didn't even give me a chance to relax. Xiao Chan was slightly taken aback. He smiled and said, What do you want? I'll help you find it. Ao Jiao was speechless. This guy was still as dumb as before. As long as he could live well, why would she want anything? He even took her jokes seriously. However, she really wanted something. She really wanted Xiao Chan to help her find it, but she was very hesitant. She shook her head silently in her heart. Then, she smiled and said, I'm just teasing you. These are the treasures I found from Gao Yangyu, Chun Wenjun, and the 2 Sun Palace elite disciples. I placed all the black astral coins on them in a space ring. There is not much, just 5 million black astral coins in total. 5 million black astral coins was a very large sum. After all, not everyone had the same fortuitous encounters as Xiao Chan. Gao Yangyu was just a loose cultivator in the Cloud Sea domain. If he had not killed the 2 Sun Palace elite disciples, his black astral coins would have decreased even further. Xiao Chan lowered his head and flipped through the treasures Ao Jiao found. There were secret manuals, medicinal pills, spirit weapons, secret treasures, and several other categories. After a quick look, Xiao Chan shook his head slightly. Most of them did not catch his eye. After leaving the Cloud Sea domain, he would have to sell them off quickly. Hey, this fan is rather exquisite. Xiao Chan discovered a white fan. The frame of the fan was made of many divine materials. It was hard and sturdy, and it felt very heavy in his hand. When the fan opened up, there was a painting of a night scene on the front. There was a bright moon, a small bridge, and a flowing river. There were people admiring the moon. The scene had a gentle beauty to it. There was a poem on the back. Ao Jiao said, This fan is pretty good. However, this fan is a strange weapon. Very few people use it. Most of them only show off their elegance and will not sell for a good price. Xiao Chan entered deep thought. Then, he put away the fan and smiled. I will not sell this first. I have a use for it. You really like to keep people in suspense. Seeing that Xiao Chan only said half of it, Ao Jiao muttered. Then, She took out a secret manual that Xiao Chan ignored. She said, "You should be able to use this." Back then, Gao Yongyu used this to hide his strength. Foundation Returning Art. Xiao Chen read out the words on the secret manual. After flipping through a few pages, his eyes lit up. This cultivation technique was not complicated. After reading it once, Xiao Chun roughly understood it. Its rank was not high, but it was very useful to Xiao Chun. As long as one learned this cultivation technique, one could hide one's true strength at any time. Unless it was someone much stronger than one, no one would discover it. Back then, Gao Yongyu used this cultivation technique to hide from everyone. Xiao Chun put away the foundation returning art and placed all the other treasures into a spatial ring. After he left the Cloud Sea domain, he would sell it. "Hey, it's empty." "It's still empty." Ao Jiao's expression changed slightly. The space in the two blue-robed emperors' spatial rings was chaotic. She did not see anything. When Xiao Chun heard this, he could not help but be startled. He had high hopes for the wealth of the two blue-robed emperors' spatial rings. Why was there nothing in the spatial rings? What's going on? Xiao Chun took a look for himself. Indeed, the spatial rings were empty. There was nothing in them. Ao Jiao lowered her head and thought. Clearly, the spatial rings of the blue-robed emperor would not be empty. This did not make sense. After a while, she came to a realization. I remember now. There should be some kind of secret treasure in the spatial rings. When a master dies, the imprint in the secret treasure vanishes. Then it explodes and destroys the space in the spatial ring. There is such a secret treasure? Xiao Chun was very surprised. His mood was somewhat depressed. The large amount of treasures that he expected was gone. Anyone would feel upset and depressed. Ao Jiao smiled and said, "Secret treasures that can destroy space are extremely rare. However, they definitely exist. An ancient faction like the Divine Dragon Palace should have many of them. They should be able to prepare one for all the experts above the blue-robed emperor. This is really ruthless. Even if I die, I cannot let others benefit from it." Xiao Chun thought to himself, "In the future, when I defeat the blue-robed emperor, I cannot kill him on the spot. I have to knock him unconscious first." Xiao Chun did not think about this for now. The trip to the treasure mountain had given him a bountiful harvest. 10 profound, meaning jade strips were enough for him. So be it if the wealth of the two blue-robed emperors is gone. Right now, there are still many things that I have to do. After taking out the grief pendant, Xiao Chun revealed a nostalgic expression. Then, he took out the cycle banner. Xiao Chun prepared to refine the fourth grief throne into the cycle banner. That's right. Ao Jiao, make a trip to Starry Cloud Island. Help me see how the Mo clan is doing. Now that the 8 city lords were dead, the Cloud Sea domain would be in chaos for a long time. Xiao Chun would have a great opportunity. This would give Mo Chen a great opportunity. Her talent had always been limited. Now that she grasped the Book of Heavenly Works and the Shattered Cloud City's city lord, who had been suppressing her, was killed by Xiao Chun, her future would be much smoother. Ao Jiao nodded. Then, her figure flashed as she flew towards Starry Cloud Island. Given Ao Jiao's current strength, which rivaled the blue-robed emperors, there was no one in the Cloud Sea domain that could threaten her. Xiao Chun was about to leave the Cloud Sea domain. With Ao Jiao going to take a look, he could rest assured. Xiao Chun took out the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron and put away the Solar True Flame first. The surface of the Golden Crow Egg was already covered in cracks. In another 2 or 3 months, it would successfully hatch. At that time, it would be worth anticipating what kind of existence it would be. Xiao Chun took out the Golden Crow Egg and placed it aside. Then, he placed the Grief Pendant in. Then, Xiao Chun started to use the Lunar True Flame to melt it. After his previous experience of merging thrones, Xiao Chun was very familiar with the process. When the sky turned dark, he successfully merged the Grief Throne into the Cycle Banner. Massacre, death, ruin, and grief. Now, he had gathered 4 of the 7 thrones. Only 3 remained. He already had news of the Despair Throne. He did not know when he would find news of the Pain Throne and the Destruction Throne. Whoosh! Xiao Chun held the cycle banner and gently waved it. The banner fluttered, and starlight of 4 different colors intersected. The might of the cycle banner improved. When the words massacre, death, ruin, and grief were used together, even the blue-robed emperor would have to retreat. Unfortunately, as long as Shao Chun could not gather all 7 thrones, the cycle banner would only be in name. In the end, the will of thunder was weaker than the will of primal chaos. Even with the familiarity of the immortal will, it would still be hard to deal with Chu Chaoyan. Shao Chun wondered what the outstanding talents that went to the astral battlefield were like now. He also wondered what was so special about the experts of the deep abyss demon race of the same generation. Could Chu Chaoyan be in the astral battlefield as well? Shao Chun did not think about this for now. Then, he put away the cycle banner and moved on to the next matter, to let the solar true flame swallow up the purple thunder true flame and strengthen it further. The solar true flame that Mo Chun gave Shao Chun was much weaker than his own lunar true flame. Only by swallowing up the purple thunder true flame could it contend with the lunar true flame and form the true Taiji yin-yang flame diagram. The purple thunder true flame was the strongest yang attributed flame. However, it was not the strongest yang attributed flame. Its quality was slightly weaker than the lunar true flame. Shao Chun opened his palm, and the solar true flame and purple thunder true flame's origin flame appeared in his palm at the same time. Shao Chun gently pushed them up. The 2 clumps of light, one big and one small, quickly merged and swallowed each other up. The purple thunder true fire's origin flame was deeply rooted in the purple thunder divine incantation. It stubbornly resisted the solar true flame's swallowing and even suffered a backlash. At this moment, Shao Chun needed to make a move to suppress the purple thunder true fire. The process of swallowing and merging was not smooth. It was even somewhat bumpy. After spending the entire night, Shao Chun heaved a sigh of relief. The solar true flame had finally swallowed up the purple thunder true fire. Contrary to what Shao Chun expected, the purple thunder true fire's origin flame did not seem to have completely disappeared. When he circulated the purple thunder divine incantation, he could still feel a connection with the solar true flame. Based on this, when the purple thunder divine incantation advanced to the 8th layer, the solar true flame would improve further because of the purple thunder true fire. Shao Chun's initial worries were no longer necessary. Shao Chun calmed himself down and dealt with the many matters on hand. On the desolate island, Shao Chun started practicing the saber, practicing the profound saber technique, Thousand Frost Battle Snow. If Shao Chun learned this move, he would have grasped 4 profound martial techniques: Instant of Glory, Subduing Dragon Profound Slash, and the 1,000-Year Flame. Every move was an earth-shattering killing move. When executed with the strength of a quasi-emperor, its might would be even more horrifying. Chapter 1049. The last 3 moves of the Myriad Heaven Divine Fist were not profound martial techniques. However, with Shao Chun's modifications and improvements, their destructive power was no weaker than the profound martial techniques of other cultivators. 7 days passed in a flash. Shao Chun had practiced most of the 1,000 Frost Battle Snow. In the end, it was a profound martial technique left behind by someone else. He could not execute it as he pleased, nor did he comprehend it smoothly. Whoosh! A petite figure flew over from the distance. With a thought, Shao Chun made the frost on the ground and the drifting snow in the sky vanish instantly. Ao Jiao landed on the ground and patted her chest. She smiled and said, "That girl is much smarter than you." She moved the Mo clan to the Broken Cloud Sea and hid there temporarily, making it difficult for me to find her. When Shao Chun heard this, he smiled. With this, he relaxed. Mo Chun was indeed a smart person. She knew that she had to endure when the time was right. I saw you practicing the 1,000 Frost Battle Snow earlier. How was it? With your comprehension ability, it should be about time, right? Ao Jiao asked with a smile. Shao Chun nodded and said, yes. Proud Snow bullying Frost. 1,000 Frost does not accept it. The name of this saber is Proud. Snow is pride, Frost is pride. When the saber is swung, it has to bring out the pride in its bones, unleashing it without restraint. Ao Jiao entered deep thought as she sized up Xiao Chun. She said, I suddenly discovered that the frost in this saber is very similar to you. White snow is born noble, descending from the sky. The moment it appears, it becomes the center of attention. Its pride soars to the clouds, revealing its cold light. On the other hand, frost is born from a lowly background. It is born from deep underground filled with ravines. From birth, it will be trampled on by others. However, no matter how lowly it is, no matter how ordinary it is, the pride in its bones will not die. Frost will eventually be able to defeat the white snow filling the sky. Ao Jiao's words made Xiao Chun very spirited. Then, he looked into the distance. Frost battles snow. Now, this frost was going to leave this cloud sea domain. He wanted to see if the snow-covered, outstanding talents of the heavenly starry ocean were as incredible as Xianyuan Zhantian said. Purple Cloud Island, the largest island at the edge of the Southern Sea. After crossing this island, one would officially enter the Southern Sea. The largest city on the island was called Purple Cloud City, in and somewhere in the city. Did you hear? 2 of the Divine Dragon Palace's supreme elders died at the hands of the Blue Dragon King, Xiao Chun. How could I not know about the recent uproar in the Southern Sea region? I heard that even the old Dragon King, who was in closed-door training, was nearly alarmed. Speaking of which, this Blue Dragon King is really incredible. He used a secret treasure to instantly kill the 8 blue-robed emperors in the Cloud Sea domain. The Divine Dragon Palace thought that he had lost his trump card and wanted to take advantage of the situation. In the end, they suffered a double loss and lost face. Say, do you think that there is anyone in our Southern Sea region that can match up to Xiao Chun within the same generation? Inns and taverns were always the places where cultivators gathered the most. This was also the place where news spread the fastest. The death of 2 blue-robed Emperor Supreme Elders of the Divine Dragon Palace was a major matter that could not be kept a secret. In less than a month, the news spread throughout the Southern Sea. Who could match up to the Blue Dragon King, Xiao Chun? When someone raised this question, the bustling immediately fell silent. Even the older generation blue-robed emperor died at the hands of Xiao Chun. Who in the same generation could stop him? Perhaps the holy science of the immortal holy lands might be able to match him, right? Don't overestimate others. The outstanding talents of our heavenly starry ocean are not weak either. The 5 poison sects' strange poison techniques, the myriad fiend islands' ancient inheritance, and the Heavenly Province Academy's righteous chi are all at least 100,000 years old. I heard that the Lunar Palace's holy daughter is coming to our Purple Cloud City today to treat people for free. The Sun Palace's holy scions and the scions of the ancient noble clans are all coming after hearing the news. Is that true? The Lunar Palace's holy daughter rarely leaves Bright Moon City. Why is she here this time? Perhaps because the topic of matching up to Xiao Chun was too heavy. The topic of the inn quickly shifted to the Lunar Palace's holy daughter. The atmosphere turned lively once more. At a table by the window on the 2nd floor, a white-clad youth with an outstanding air and delicate features held a white fan in his hand. This person looked like he was only a Grandmaster-level martial sage. However, his aura was unfathomable, like the icy water in a cold pool, very misty. When the youth heard this news, the wine cup that he was holding to his lips paused slightly. He revealed an interested expression as he put down the wine cup and muttered, Lunar Palace's holy daughter? The Lunar Palace. That holy land with a special status far away from the mundane world. Should I go and take a look? Since the outstanding talents of the Southern Sea will come after hearing the news, this is also an opportunity. I want to see how outstanding the cultivators of the same generation in the heavenly starry ocean are. This person was none other than Xiao Chun, who had disguised himself and used the foundation returning art to hide his cultivation. He was on his way to the largest trading center of the Southern Sea, the 10,000 Treasure Sea Market. That place was a maritime market, a sea market specially prepared for cultivators. It was boundlessly bustling and bustling, be it illegal goods of unknown origins or treasures obtained through legitimate channels. one could quickly sell them there. Furthermore, there were many merchant associations, so one would not have to worry about suffering a loss. Xiao Chun had heard that the 10,000 Treasure Sea Market was about to hold the biennial 10,000 Treasure Festival. There would be all sorts of auctions. No matter what level one was, one would be able to find the most suitable item. Not only could one sell the goods on hand, but one could also search for treasures that one wanted at the auction. At the same time, one could also experience the grand occasion of the 10,000 Treasure Festival. Killing 3 birds with 1 stone was very suitable. The Lunar Palace's holy daughter was very famous. Since he met her by chance, there was no harm in going and taking a look. It would not take much time. Xiao Chen waved his hand and called the waiter over. The waiter walked over with a joyful smile on his face. This young master had been very extravagant in the morning. After asking around for some information, he rewarded the waiter with 100 astral coins, equivalent to several years of his salary. When the waiter saw Xiao Chun wave his hand again, he rushed over in a hurry, afraid of being slow. The Lunar Palace's holy daughter is really coming to Purple Cloud Island. Do you know why? The waiter smiled and said, "Yes, she is coming. I heard that this holy daughter left Moon City half a year ago, searching everywhere for famous doctors. Everywhere she went, she would treat the injuries of others. This time, she is just passing through Purple Cloud Island and will be staying there for a few days. Her destination is the 10,000 Treasure Sea Market. There are several Grandmaster alchemists hired by large merchant associations there, and they are quite famous." Xiao Chen sighed softly. Finding it strange, he said, "Since this Lunar Palace's holy daughter dares to treat illnesses, her medical skills should be relatively good as well. Why is she looking for famous doctors?" The waiter smiled and said, "I find it strange as well. The Lunar Palace's holy daughter has excellent medical skills and excellent alchemy skills. She once saved several people who were on the verge of death. However, such a person is like a fairy from heaven. How can a mere manservant like me guess the thoughts of a fairy?" This made sense. It would be strange if the waiter before him knew about such a difficult problem. Xiao Chun smiled and asked, "Do you know when she will arrive?" I'm not sure. Perhaps she will arrive today. Perhaps she will arrive the day after tomorrow. Perhaps she will not stop at Purple Cloud Island at all, heading directly to the 10,000 Treasure Sea Market. All these are possible. There are so many possibilities. In that case, there's no need to wait here." Xiao Chen picked up his wine cup and drained it in one go. Then, he placed down an astral coin and prepared to depart for the 10,000 Treasure Sea Market. "Everyone, quickly go to the west of the city. The Lunar Palace's holy daughter is here and has already opened her stall. Brothers, if you have any hidden injuries or internal injuries, go quickly. Otherwise, it will be a pity if you are late." Suddenly, a cultivator rushed into the inn's hall and shouted excitedly. The hall was silent for a while before it turned chaotic. The cultivators at the various tables tossed down their money and rushed to the door. Bang! In an instant, the spacious door was directly burst open, and the bustling inn was quickly emptied. Xiao Chun was flabbergasted. This was too exaggerated. Actually, if one thought about it carefully, it was not exaggerated at all. A cultivator's life would always be accompanied by pain. More or less, they would leave behind internal injuries and hidden injuries that they did not know about. Xiao Chun himself had been injured many times. However, his physical body was strong, reaching peak rank 4 Sage body. He was confident that he would not leave behind any hidden injuries. The same could not be said for other cultivators. If they did not get rid of their hidden injuries, when they flared up, they would become a stubborn disease. No matter how good the spirit pills and miraculous medicines were, they would not be able to treat them. Aside from internal injuries and hidden injuries, there were also people who suffered setbacks when cultivating. Their meridians were in chaos. Now, there was a person who could treat people's injuries for free. Furthermore, his medical skills had reached great heights. It would be strange if they did not fight to the death over him. Xiao Chun pushed off the ground and leaped out of the window. Then, he somersaulted beautifully in the air and landed on the roof of the inn's top floor. Western part of the city, Xiao Chun thought to himself. Then, he unfurled the freedom wings and looked towards the western part of the city. Many scenes flashed before Xiao Chen's eyes like a movie. The big streets and small alleys, the sky and the ground, were all filled with cultivators rushing towards the western part of the city. The scene stopped. In front of a pavilion by a lake in the western part of the city, many young girls in their prime stood in 2 rows, maintaining order. They all had graceful figures and pretty appearances. The young girls all had smiles on their faces, and their auras were ethereal. All of them had a gentle beauty like the moon, giving people a good impression of them. However, all of them were incredibly strong. When Xiao Chen saw this, he felt startled. Unexpectedly, all of these 10-odd young girls were martial sages. There were also several arrogant young men with outstanding auras standing in front of the pavilion, helping to maintain order. These should be the outstanding talents who had come to follow the Lunar Palace's holy daughter because of her fame. There were not many cultivators in front of the pavilion yet. However, after a while, the small path in front of the lake would be filled with cultivators who had heard the news. So close yet worlds apart. Xiao Chen took a step forward and silently crossed 5 kilometers. Then, he drifted down from the sky. Then he landed in front of most of the cultivators and quietly lined up at the back of the line, which was not very long. The order of the place was very good. There was no clamor or noise. Every time a person stepped forward, a red rope would descend from the elegant pavilion and tie it to the cultivator's wrist. After the red rope was withdrawn, the young girls standing on both sides would receive instructions to inform the cultivator of the diagnosis. If there were ready-made medicinal pills, they would give them. If there were none, they would leave behind the medicinal pill recipe. This was very efficient. However, Xiao Chen could not help feeling disappointed. Originally, he thought that by lining up for treatment, he would be able to personally see this famous holy daughter. However, when he arrived, he realized that this holy daughter did not show herself at all. Chapter 1050. Xiao Chen's interest waned. He had the intention to leave. He was very confident in his body. He did not have any internal injuries or hidden illnesses. Since he could not see this woman, there was no point in continuing to line up. "It's your turn. What are you waiting for?" A melodious voice rang out. Just as Xiao Chen was thinking this, he suddenly discovered that the line in front of him was already full. The various outstanding talents in front of the pavilion all revealed displeased expressions as they looked at Xiao Chen, who was distracted. They thought that he was here to cause trouble. A few of them even had a faint, baleful aura in their eyes. If Xiao Chen was really here to cause trouble, they would not mind teaching him a lesson. Xiao Chen smiled bitterly in his heart. He could only go up and go through the motions. Otherwise, there would be some small trouble. Xiao Chen stepped forward and stretched out his wrist. A red string carrying a medicinal fragrance flew over from the pavilion. Whoosh! It tied itself to his wrist and tied a knot. Xiao Chen looked at the red string. However, a screen blocked his view. Even his spiritual sense could only see a mist. He could not see the holy daughter's appearance behind the mist. Xiao Chen felt a cool and refreshing energy flow through his body. Then, the red string bounced back. The diagnosis was complete. However, unexpectedly, after a long time, no young girl came out from either side. No one came out to tell Xiao Chen the results of the diagnosis. There was also no medicinal pill or pill recipe for him. The others whispered to each other, not knowing what was going on. However, Xiao Chen was very clear. He did not have any hidden injuries or internal injuries. Why would they give him the medicinal pill or pill recipe? Sorry for the interruption. It looks like my body is fine. There are no hidden injuries or hidden injuries. After giving the pavilion a deep look, Xiao Chen performed a cupped fist salute and prepared to take his leave. He had only come here to join in on the excitement. There was nothing else to see, so naturally there was no need to stay. You are really interesting. The Holy Daughter said that your illness is beyond cure. Even a divine doctor cannot save you. We were just hesitating on whether to tell you or not. A young girl laughed coquettishly, saying something that Xiao Chen would never have thought of. Beyond cure? How could that be? Xiao Chen's physical body had been tempered and tempered several times, going through many trials and suffering 1,000 kinds of pain. After consuming 100 drops of dragon marrow, he had attained a peak rank 4 sage body. How could he be so sick that even a divine doctor couldn't save him? Young master, you still have 10 years to live. If you have any wishes, you should do them as soon as possible, said the pretty attendant softly. She also had a look of pity on her face. Xiao Chan found it a little funny. The more he said, the more ridiculous he became. He even said that he only had 10 more years to live. Perhaps the Lunar Palace's holy daughter was only SOSO. Just look at the so-called outstanding talents in front of the pavilion. They only had appearances and were not worth mentioning. Perhaps there were no experts in the entire heavenly starry ocean. At the very least, there were no eye-catching people in the same generation. How unfortunate! At such a young age, this white-robed person is already a Grandmaster level martial sage. Clearly, he is an outstanding talent of a noble clan. He could be considered a hero. Unexpectedly, he only has 10 more years to live. He a hero? Perhaps he is overexerting himself and does not know the principle of progressing step by step. That's why he fell sick. Furthermore, he does not know that and came to the Lunar Palace's holy daughter to join in the fun. That's true. Based on his appearance, he does not look like he is here to treat his injuries. He probably thinks that his cultivation is pretty good and that he can gain the holy daughter's favor. Who knew? The Lunar Palace's holy daughter would see through his hidden illness with one glance. Serve him right. The cultivators waiting in line all had expressions of schadenfreude in their tones. When they saw a cultivator who was far more outstanding than them only have 10 more years to live, they would definitely feel some joy. I wonder where this white-robed person came from. Based on his scholarly appearance, he might be from a Confucian noble clan near the Heavenly Province Academy. I have never heard of such a person in the Heavenly Province Academy. Even some of the more famous Confucian noble clans do not have such a person. He probably came from a small clan. That should be the case. He does not seem to have any righteous chi on him. His clan probably used him as a sacrificial pawn. He still does not realize it, thinking that he can become a dragon in one leap. There were all sorts of discussions. It seemed like they all agreed with the Lunar Palace's holy daughter. The holy daughter said that Xiao Chen only had 10 more years to live, so he really would not live past that. The 4 youths in front of the pavilion all rejoiced in Xiao Chen's misfortune. With one glance, they could tell that Xiao Chen was not really here to seek treatment. They felt that Xiao Chen's true purpose was the same as theirs, just to get close to the Lunar Palace's holy daughter. Xiao Chen gently closed the folding fan in his hand and smiled faintly. Then, he prepared to turn and leave. Young master, please wait. The holy daughter still has something to say. If you are willing to cripple your cultivation and become an ordinary person, I can lend you the Lunar Palace's longevity art. I can lend young master the Lunar Palace's longevity art. I guarantee that young master will live to 100. Xiao Chen originally had a smile on his face. Now, his expression sank completely. This was really never-ending. These people really could say anything. Now, they actually wanted him to cripple his cultivation. There should be a limit to the nonsense they spouted, all right? Xiao Chen stopped walking and turned around with a white folding fan in his hand. Young master, have you made up your mind? If you are really willing to cripple your cultivation, I can let young master read 3 chapters of the Lunar Palace's longevity art. When the delicate girl who spoke saw Xiao Chen turn around, she thought that he had changed his mind. She repeated what she said earlier. Her tone was gentle, but her posture contained a kind of aloof arrogance. It was as if letting Xiao Chen read the first 3 chapters of the longevity art was already a great kindness and charity. Xiao Chen smiled and said, "Actually, I am also somewhat skilled in medicine. When the holy daughter took my pulse, she concluded that I have 10 more years to live. It is impolite not to reciprocate. I will also take the holy daughter's pulse and see if she is in a delirious state. You are so young, yet you are already speaking nonsense." The moment Xiao Chen said that, everyone's expressions changed drastically. The Lunar Palace's holy daughter held an esteemed position and a high prestige. Unexpectedly, Xiao Chen dared to question the Lunar Palace's holy daughter, speaking rudely. She gave you kindness and saved your life. Not only did you not feel grateful, but you even slandered the holy daughter. How bold! Where did this wild brat come from? Why don't you look at where you are? How dare you behave atrociously here? A dark-skinned youth in blue among the 4 outstanding talents in front of the pavilion drew his sword in anger. Then, he charged at Xiao Chun while emitting killing chi. The people on the left and right reacted too slowly. They could not help but curse this brat for being too shrewd. This was an opportunity to show off, yet this fellow snatched it away. Without hesitation, the 3 of them attacked together, charging at Xiao Chun. Huh! The 4 strongest youths of our Purple Cloud Island are attacking together. This brat is dead for sure. It is good that he is dead. He even dares to speak rudely to the holy daughter. Serves him right. In any case, he will not live for more than 10 years. It is all the same if he dies earlier or later. A small clan is indeed a small clan. They have not seen much of the world and think that Grandmaster-level martial sages are incredible. They do not know that Grandmaster-level martial sages are divided into the strong and the weak. Our Southern Sea does not need too many young Grandmaster-level martial sages like him. The girl who tried to console Xiao Chun frowned slightly when she saw the 4 outstanding talents of Purple Cloud Island surging with killing chi. However, she did not say anything in the end. Xiao Chen's words were simply too overboard. It turned out that they were cultivators of Purple Cloud Island. No wonder they were Grandmaster-level martial sages. No wonder they were not even comparable to the elite disciples of the Sun Palace, in Xiao Chen's opinion. Grandmaster-level martial sages were indeed divided into the strong and the weak. However, these 4 people before Xiao Chun clearly belonged to the weakest category. Wherever they went, any Grandmaster-level martial sage would beat them into kneeling and begging for mercy. The phrase, "not knowing the immensity of heaven and earth," referred to these 4 people. Xiao Chun opened his folding fan. He did not use the strength of the blue-robed emperor, only that of a Grandmaster-level martial sage. The instant he opened his folding fan, a layer of frost spread out from under Xiao Chen's feet. Crystalline white snowflakes drifted down from the sky. Proud of the snow, bullying the frost, the 1,000 frost will not submit. Xiao Chun waved his folding fan, and thousands of strands of cold saber chi soared up from the ground. These strands of saber chi carried a stubborn pride as they swept out. The 4 outstanding talents of Purple Cloud Island bore the brunt of the attack. The saber chi covered their bodies in wounds, and their auras scattered. They fell to the ground in sorry states. When their wounds came into contact with them, they immediately cried out miserably in pain. The young girls on both sides received a significant blow as well, getting knocked back and dealing with the strands of saber chi in a fluster. If Xiao Chun had not suppressed his strength, this 1,000 frost battle snow would have wiped out everyone before him. However, Xiao Chun did not have a huge grudge against Xiao Chun. It was just that he was angered by the other party's nonsense and the other party's expression of gratitude. Xiao Chun only wanted to vent his anger. He had not thought of killing anyone. Taking advantage of the flustered crowd, Xiao Chun closed his folding fan and switched it to his left hand. Then, he casually pulled out a strand of hair with his right hand. Xiao Chun flicked his finger, and a boundless saber chi appeared. The strand of hair gave off a crystalline light as it extended towards the screen in the pavilion with an unparalleled aura. Behind the screen was an elegant, fairy-like woman who was as ethereal as the moon. She wore snow-white clothes as she sat behind an elegant, red wooden table. The red string in her hand shot out unhurriedly, piercing through the screen. In a thousandth of a second, it clashed with Xiao Chen's strand of hair. Bang! The two clashed. To the white-clad woman's surprise, the strand of hair pierced through her red string, making it look like a piece of bamboo, exploding into pieces. A strong saber intent spread out in all directions. The flower vases, trees, and all the other exquisite decorations in the pavilion instantly shattered into dust. However, it was clear that Xiao Chun had held back. Otherwise, it would not just be these flower vases that shattered, but the entire pavilion. The shock on the white-clad woman's face had just passed when she discovered that the strand of hair had already wrapped around her wrist, gently nodding it. A middle-aged woman with an extremely strong aura hid in the shadows behind the white-clad woman. When she saw this, she wanted to make a move to break the strand of hair. After the white-clad woman recovered from her shock, she smiled faintly and waved her hand to stop the other party. After a while, a cold chi flowed through the strand of hair and traveled through the various acupoints of the white-clad woman's body, paying special attention to several acupoints in the brain. The woman felt startled in her heart. Based on the location of the cold chi traveling through the acupoints, it was clearly an extremely profound pulse-reading technique. Furthermore, it was very different from current medical techniques. Chapter 10:51. Outside the pavilion, Xiao Chun tapped his hair with 4 fingers in a certain rhythm. Time slowly passed. Xiao Chen's expression turned increasingly grave, and a strange look flashed in his eyes. The Lunar Palace disciples in front had more or less dealt with the frost saber chi binding them. Xiao Chun showed a sullen expression. He could not even be bothered with the strand of hair in his hand. He tossed it aside and left, not willing to stay a moment longer, clearly preoccupied. Damn, this fellow really took the pulse of the Lunar Palace's holy daughter. He profaned the holy daughter. We can't let him escape. No one had expected Xiao Chun to take the pulse of the fairy-like person in their hearts. All of them immediately flew into a rage, surrounding Xiao Chun as he turned to leave. The earlier anger vanished without a trace. Xiao Chun just wanted to leave. He threw out his folding fan and danced around him. The bright moon in the fan, the small bridge, and the flowing water seemed to appear in the real world. The gentle moon, the clear water, and the fluttering folding fan. Xiao Chun stood on a small bridge, gradually moving further away. No one could stop him for even a moment. Inside the pavilion, a strand of black hair wound around the index finger of the white-clad woman. She stood up and went to the window. As she watched Xiao Chun walk away on the moon and the bridge, her pretty eyes revealed a contemplative look. The bright moon hung high in the sky, and his white robes fluttered. Xiao Chun stepped on the moonlight and rode the bridge back. The road in front of the lake was in chaos. The people who blocked Xiao Chun all suffered significant injuries. Xiao Chun, who was in a rush to leave with a heavy heart, did not control his strength well, resulting in several severe injuries. The female Lunar Palace disciples moved about, checking on the injuries and treating them. Chaos reigned everywhere. The white-clad woman in front of the pavilion frowned slightly. The beautiful middle-aged woman with an outstanding aura behind her stepped forward and whispered, "Bingyun, this person is an expert. He might have hidden his cultivation." Yu Bingyun felt it was strange. She asked, "In Aunt Bai's eyes, he is an expert as well." The beautiful, noble, and graceful Auntie Bai smiled and said, "It's just a feeling. This person is definitely someone with a story. Unfortunately, 10 years are about to pass, and the heavens are jealous of him." Yu Bingyin lowered her head and looked at the strand of fine black hair wrapped around her index finger. She said softly, "It is possible that he is the person we are looking for." "Really?" The woman Yu Bingyun addressed as Aunt Bai paled somewhat. "Whether it's true or not, we still have to ask him in person. Even if he did not leave his name, I have never heard of this person in the heavenly starry ocean. Judging from his attire, I wonder if the Heavenly Province Academy's young master Qing Shu knows him." Yu Bingyan looked at the strand of hair between her fingers, feeling that it was a pity. Suddenly, she looked up from the window and saw a figure rushing over in the distance at lightning speed. He was like a soaring, true dragon, stepping on the auspicious clouds and withdrawing the strong winds. His roar was like the roar of a true dragon, reverberating in all directions. The many injured cultivators below immediately recognized him. They could not help but reveal astonished expressions. "It's the Southern Sea Divine Dragon Palace's young palace master, Hai Tian." Indeed, when the Lunar Palace's holy daughter arrived at Purple Cloud Island, the outstanding talents of the Southern Sea will definitely come after hearing the news. The Southern Sea Divine Dragon Palace was a huge faction of the Southern Sea. When Neptune was still around, it was even stronger than the Immortal Holy Land Zodiac Hall. Naturally, The purpose of the Southern Sea Divine Dragon Palace's young palace master was self-evident. He was here for the Lunar Palace's holy daughter, Yu Bingyan. Suddenly, a flickering lightning-attributed flame lit up in the western sky. A lightning-attributed flame tore through the sky and headed for the pavilion as well. The young master of an ancient noble clan, the scion of the Gongsun clan, Gongsun Yin. A strong wind blew in the northern sky. A berserk aura spread out together with the strong wind. Everyone could feel a prideful aura that looked down on the world. It's another ancient noble clan, the scion of the Shangwan clan, Shangwan Yin. Soundlessly, a person flew over from the east. He didn't seem to be making any big movements, but as he moved, the sky behind him moved forward bit by bit, giving off an oppressive feeling, as if the might of the heavens were descending. The scion of the Xia clan is here as well. The many cultivators on the ground erupted with excitement. In such a short time, nearly all the factions of the Southern Sea that could rival the Immortal Holy Lands had arrived. This was a true outstanding talent. The 4 people from Purple Cloud Island were far inferior compared to him. The reputation of the Lunar Palace's holy daughter filled the sky with boundless charm. Just as everyone thought that this was the end, something happened in the central sky. A dazzling golden sun slowly descended, overshadowing the radiance of the blazing sun. Beside him, there was a full moon. The sun and the moon descended together, and the sun and moon shone together, illuminating the surroundings. With such an obvious, mysterious phenomenon, no one in the Southern Sea would not know. This was the holy son of the Southern Sea's immortal holy land, the Zodiac Hall's holy daughter, Fu Hongyao. One was the top true inheritor of the Sun Palace, and the other was the top true inheritor of the Moon Palace. They were the most outstanding talents of the same generation in the Southern Sea. This was especially so for the holy son, Chu Yang. He had been in closed-door cultivation for the past few years. His strength was unfathomable. Rumor had it that the location of his closed-door cultivation was the blazing sun. The palace master of the Zodiac Hall, the Prime Emperor Wu Jinxuani, personally guarded him. The moment the sun and moon appeared, the auras of the others immediately paled in comparison to the two, becoming slightly inferior. As the group approached the pavilion in front of the lake, they seemed to come to a tacit understanding and scattered their auras, withdrawing their sharpness. This was a show of respect for the Lunar Palace's holy daughter. They did not act presumptuously. They landed firmly and reported their identities, waiting quietly. The first to land was the Southern Sea Divine Dragon Palace's Hai Tian. When he saw Gongsun Yin, he smiled faintly and said, "It looks like Brother Gongsun's Thunderflame war body made a breakthrough again. If you have time, let's exchange pointers." Gongsun Yin smiled calmly and said, "It's so. However, if Brother Hai Tian wants to exchange pointers, I can accompany you at any time." The two's tone was calm. However, as they spoke, they clashed with each other, giving off a faint smell of gunpowder. "Huh, Brother Hai Tian, I heard that the Blue Dragon King recently killed 2 of the Southern Sea Divine Dragon Palace's blue-robed emperors. Is that true?" A strong wind blew, and the scion of the ancient Shangwan clan, Shangwan Yun, landed quietly. He smiled at Hai Tian, the scion of the Xia clan, Xia Han Feng, who wanted to arrive with heaven's might, had just landed. When he heard this, he also looked at Hai Tian curiously. The news of the Blue Dragon King, Xiao Chun, killing 2 of the Southern Sea Divine Dragon Palace's blue-robed emperors had spread like wildfire. These outstanding talents were all curious as to whether this was true or not. Hai Tian felt stifled, and anger appeared on his face. Just as he did not know how to answer, he saw the holy sons and holy daughters of Zodiac Hall land together. Hai Tian raised his eyebrows, and his lips curled up. He said, "Shangwan Yin, I think you should go and ask Chu Yang." The Blue Dragon King nearly disfigured Fu Hongyao with one punch during his king conferral ceremony. Is there such a thing? Shangwan Yin glared at Hai Tian. Only a fool would mention this matter to Chu Yang. When Chu Yang and Fu Hongyao landed in front of the pavilion, They acted like they had not heard what Shangguan said and headed straight for the doors. Friends, the Holy Daughter is startled today, and the pavilion is in a mess. Aside from Miss Red Yao, it is not convenient for the other young masters to meet. The Lunar Palace's female disciple, standing guard at the doors, said apologetically to the group. Fu Hongyao was acquainted with the Lunar Palace's Holy Daughter in the first place. Naturally, Yu Bingyun would not reject Fu Hongyao. Under the gazes of the others, Fu Hongyao entered the pavilion. The Holy Daughter is startled? Could it be that someone dares to cause trouble in the pavilion of the Lunar Palace's Holy Daughter? When the group saw the chaotic scene of the Lunar Palace's disciples treating the injured in the crowd, their expressions sank. That might be the case. After asking around, the expressions of Hai Tian and the others changed drastically. How audacious! Where did this fellow come from? To think that he does not know the immensity of the heavens and earth, even daring to take the Holy Daughter's pulse. Hai Tian said angrily. The expressions of Shangguan Yun and the others were unsightly as well. Yu Bingyun being profaned in their Southern Sea was a slap to the faces of all the outstanding talents of the Southern Sea. In the future, during the Four Seas Hero Gathering, the many outstanding talents of the other sea domains would definitely mock them in Bright Moon City because of this. We have to find this person. Otherwise, we will lose a lot of face, Shangguan Yun, who was at odds with Hai Tian, said, something that he rarely did. Naturally, the others did not mind. This was both a good and a bad thing. In this day and age, no one could truly profane the Lunar Palace's Holy Daughter. How could they miss out on such an opportunity to show off before the Holy Daughter? The few of them acted in concert with their words. However, they were all thinking about how to obtain the greatest benefits for themselves in this matter. Only Chu Yang of the Zodiac Hall remained silent. He simply could not think of anyone in the heavenly starry ocean who dared to profane Yu Bingyun. Could it be someone from the Black Sea? That's not right. There is no such person in the Black Sea. If there were, I would definitely know who it was. Perhaps this matter is not as simple as it appears on the surface. Thousands of meters away, at the top floor of an inn, 3 or 4 dissolute cultivators with evil auras sat at a table by the window. They all had smiles on their faces as they looked at the pavilion from afar. In the entire history of the Lunar Palace, even back to the time of Neptune, only one Holy Daughter has ever fallen in love with a mortal. These people are really delusional. Humph! What outstanding talent. They look bright and awe-inspiring. But in front of a woman, you've become so timid and polite. You don't deserve to be called a prodigy at all. That brother in white is still the best. He suits my taste. Since ancient times, he is the only one who dared to forcefully take the pulse of the Holy Daughter. Huh, well said. I wonder if second brother can catch up to this person. I really want to make friends with him. He definitely can. Second brother's movement technique is excellent. The same thing had a different result in the eyes of different people. At this moment, Xiao Chun clearly did not know what kind of ripples his impromptu actions had caused. However, even if he knew, he would not care too much about it, given how preoccupied he was. Xiao Chun flew all the way out of Purple Cloud Island. After traveling for an unknown distance, he stopped before a lone island. The folding fan fluttered as Xiao Chun stretched out his hand and grasped it. The bright moon, the bridge, and the flowing water were no longer there. His figure drifted over and landed on the tallest peak of the island. Standing at the summit, Xiao Chun looked at the boundless sea. He frowned heavily, thinking about something. Xiao Chun, what's wrong? Ao Jiao had long noticed that something was wrong with Xiao Chun's expression, so she could not help asking. Xiao Chun gently fanned himself and said, "That Lunar Palace's Holy Daughter did not speak nonsense. At the very least, there was no need for her to do so. The longevity art is indeed a holy manual for maintaining one's health. It is worthy of such a grand display."